across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
My friends, welcome back. Just gone 6 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Very welcome to Talk Breakfast, of course. Thank you, I should start by saying a massive thank you to Ian Collins, who's done a sterling job the last 2 weeks and is now himself on holiday. And you would think that I would be back here refreshed and relaxed after 2 weeks with 6 screaming bloody children. Well, a beach holiday that was the 6 screaming children followed by Centre Parks with 6 screaming children has left me looking forward to coming back to work for a rest, frankly. But I walk into a slightly different environment, I have to say. Well, some things have never changed. The air conditioning's broken again. So at 3 minutes past 6, you know, the 6th heat wave, it's happening in this bloody studio already. Tommy's on holiday. We've got a new lady on. What's her name again? Sorry, I can't remember. Is it? What? Agni. She's taking your calls. Listen, Big M's here. Mark is here. He, honestly, Mark just is always here. And the most important person, the one who runs this, is not Christian, by the way. No, it's Nehal. She's in. Never getting married. 0344 419 1000. That's the telephone. Not that she will never... By the way, don't take that the wrong way. Her boyfriend's desperate to ask her, but she's like, not for 3 years, mate. I'm in charge. She's a powerful woman. 0344 419 1000 is the only number you need in town. You can make the call right now. You can get a voice note in. What should we give away? A banana for the best... No, for the first talk note. Voice note, whatever you call it. Also, text messages, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Poppy Coburn in just a tick will review the morning papers. If I start to look sweaty and sound hot and bothered, it'll be because the air conditioning's not working again. Surprise, surprise. So what we're waking up to this morning... Following, obviously, Nigel Farage's victory in the Clacton by-election on Friday, I know you'll have talked about this loads on Friday and over the weekend. For me, personally, and I've been very honest to anybody at Reform, they need to get back to setting the agenda. When I interviewed Chris Philp on the shores of wherever it was in France the other day, that's what Reform were doing before they seem to have been stuck in this mire. But good news is they're back setting the agenda this morning. Robert Jenrick making a major speech at 11 o'clock. And for a lot of people, I would say this is absolutely spot on. Reform will ban foreigners from claiming benefits in a bid to save 50 billion quid. But they will go further than that. And in essence, the party want to say that people claiming welfare benefits, and this is the essence of the argument, right? Because anybody on the left will go, oh, my God, all those people in poverty are going to be screwed by a Reform or Conservative or anybody else government who dares to look at this, right? Reform are talking 50 billion. The Tories are talking 23 billion. When you look into pension credit and job seekers allowance and child benefit and free childcare and disability, the reason it's being looked into is not even since COVID, but certainly exacerbated since COVID, people are getting benefits without even having to prove their eligibility. They're not having to have a face-to-face interview or anything like that. And that is the issue. And it has become, whether people like this or not, too easy to claim benefits to the detriment of people who truly deserve them, and it has become too easy to just make that choice. And people hate me saying that. They go, how can you say that anybody would decide to be on benefits? Will you tell alarm clock Brits? Because there's millions of people, sorry, I really believe this, who are taking the mickey out of the system, and Reform says they will do something about it. I've said for a long, long time, people should... I mean, we can't work. Why can't you work? Well, I've got anxiety. Oh, we'll just sign you off for 6 months then. What a load of old tosh that is. On the other hand, there have been some woes, of course, for Reform. Nigel Farage's £5 million gift problem hasn't gone away. The Parliamentary Standards Committee investigation has reopened, which most of us knew would happen, irrespective of Clacton. And there are reports over the weekend, I don't know whether this is true or not, Nigel has reportedly fallen out of love with Zia Youssef, with a source saying, I think his days are numbered. That'll be an interesting one to follow. We've got Richard Tice, Deputy Leader, on at 6:30. Danny Kruger, who's preparing for government for Reform. He will be on later on. Whilst I was away on Friday, that said, beep, 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 don't use the barbecue. What was that all about? Are you beep, 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 it's going to be a nuclear bomb. You got 30 seconds. No. Don't you... Sorry to be boring, right, but can't we sort of make our own... Are we not mature enough? Is the world gone barking? What are we going to get next? Don't forget to have your cereal. Beep, beep, don't eat cereal. And also, the sad story, and I'm really interested by this because this Jason Arday story, there are people who are very different in their opinion than I am, OK? So I'll say that before we start. This morning, the head of a Cambridge college has called for an investigation into the media onslaught on Jason Arday. Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College, Cambridge, said that Arday had been subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt before his death on Friday. I would like to say that nobody, I think, would want a man, a father, a mother, any human being to be in a position where they've done this. And I, by the way, have been in the eye of a media onslaught. But I think it also, right, is a story about the failings of people around him, the judgment of people at the top of institutions who went, oh, I'll tell you what, I'll accept his claims, I'm going to build him up as some sort of, I don't know, figurehead, and we'll put him out there, knowing that there were failings. So before people go, the right-wing that, right? And I had it. You also have to understand that if you put yourself out there, there's going to be that reaction. And the people that put poor Jason Arday out there, surely, in my humble opinion, should also take some of the noise that's coming their way. 8 minutes past 6, 0344 499 1000. Jezza, it's been a long 2 weeks, says Howard. Don't do it again. I do apologise. 9 minutes past 6. Can I say a very... This is lovely for me. Grumpy last time. She was ill. She's back. Poppy Coburn. Hello, darling.
Hello. How was your holiday?
Awful.
Oh, what?
Awful.
Awful?
Mate, I have been away for 15 days. I have been surrounded by screaming children, grandchildren, who I banned, by the way, from calling me granddad at Centre Parks. I had to give them... Yeah, they are my family, but yeah, just children. Oh, no, I'm joking. It was really great.
Oh, yeah, your face is telling a story there, that you've had a really wonderful time on your holiday.
No, it was lovely, but, you know, the days of sitting on a beach in Barbados, you know, just sipping a drink, that's gone, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, Centre Parks is quite an ordeal.
You know, Centre Parks was great, but somebody did a poo in the pool one day. That shut the rapids.
Was
Have you
that
been
you?
on the rapid? No, actually, it wasn't me, although I've got to the
I know,
age
you've
where...
got your toilet card.
What are you trying... Oh, yes, of course.
If
If you're just tuning in, I have Crohn's, and I've got a card that says, please let me poo in your loo if I go to a shop.
Sorry,
Why does that make you... Why are you laughing again? Please let me poo in your loo.
Well, you must be very disappointed by reforms.
But you know...
Reforms here, must you? Because they might take your poo card away from you.
Oh God! Oh, this reform looking into the welfare.
Yeah.
They could take my poo card away from me.
I know.
Do you want to see my? I've got my poo card
Please.
today. Mate. It's downstairs.
Wash your hands before you show me.
What are you trying to say? I am not incontinent yet. As Vic always says, just by the time Iris is out of nappies, you'll be in them, won't you?
Yeah.
It's nice. Anyway, you look well. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
New flat's good?
It is wonderful.
Loving
Absolutely
life?
lovely. Yeah,
You look healthier as well. You were a bit ill last time, weren't you?
Yeah, I must be the only person that managed to get a cold in the summertime.
Christian, old softy through there, the Welsh wizard, he's had a sore throat for weeks.
Loads of people at work have come down with the same kind of like nasty, like sore throat. Oh, honestly,
Can we dissect this? Because you're the best person for this. I wasn't here for Farage's by-election victory. I was very honest and said that whilst I understood the premise of doing it because the pylon was so large, I always knew the parliamentary investigation would reopen.
Yeah.
And for me, you can say this is the establishment, and I get that. I mean, I've watched him try and he can't get a question in Prime Minister's question time, despite the fact he's a leader. I read yesterday he's actually going to be allowed at the Cenotaph in November for Remembrance Day for the first time. I get all of that, but what I want reform to be is on the front foot. I said it in the introduction, when I was talking to Chris Philp the other day, on the beach in France, I wanted that to be Nigel Farage, because that's where... And they're back today, and I think they're doing something really great. Let's talk about welfare. I mean, before I went away, there was that terrible day, wasn't it, when we announced that the money that we pay out in welfare benefits, 334 million, is more than we actually get from people working in tax.
Yeah.
Something has to be done. The Tories are talking about cuts, but this is the first party to actually put a figure on it. They'd already said they would ban foreigners from claiming benefits in a bid to save 50 billion. But the new proposal covers almost all welfare payments, including housing, pension credit, job seekers allowance, child benefit, free childcare and disability benefits. Now, that is going to be met with an absolute, oh, my God, everybody that's disabled or mentally ill is going to be screwed under potential reform government. But this needs to be done face to face and people justifying. And I actually think this is clever because I think a lot of people on the breadline just about managing and they go, yeah, about bloody time.
You know, something that's really brilliant about these reforms, which has kind of been lost in the discussion about foreign nationals having their disability benefits taken away from them and all those kind of headline things that have got people up in arms. But this is a totally sensible proposal, which is they're going to take the cash away from people. So the people who are currently getting PIP, they're not just going to get cash, they're going to get benefits in kind. So you could get physiotherapy if you're struggling with chronic back pain. You could get mental health support if you're struggling with your mental health and you can't get into work. So they're basically saying, in the same way that the US doesn't just give you cash, to give you food stamps, rather than just handing out money to people when it's really difficult to actually tell, particularly in the cases of mental health conditions, whether or not someone is genuinely suffering or they're malingering. If you are genuinely suffering, you're going to want that support, aren't you? You're going to want your physio, you're going to want your mental health support. So I thought that was really fantastic. I mean, look, it's not perfect. I think people have raised concerns over the 2-year contract that employees would be stuck into. Basically, if workers go off sick, it would be employers that would be liable. Fine if it's a big company, but that would also apply for companies that have over 6 employees. I get that. Maybe that's not the right policy to necessarily do, but this is why they're an opposition party. They're going to work these details out if they do eventually get into government. But thank God that someone is actually approaching this issue honestly and saying it's not just about supporting people, it's about supporting the taxpayer.
It is, and I just listen. I was sat in a hotel in Ascot yesterday, Saturday night, to Henry for a big golf tournament, and this bloke just came up to me, and he was obviously an alarm clock Brit, obviously had the show. It's called Dan. If you are listening, Dan, top man from Broxbourne, 3 gorgeous kids and a wife, works hard, got his own business, just couldn't stop saying to me, I don't know what it is, right, but I get out of bed every single morning and I pay my tax and I'm fed up to the back teeth. And he said, and everybody I know feels exactly the same. And I do think there's a point, and if I could get reform by the throat, I wouldn't say this. There are millions of people, silent majority people in Britain who've had enough.
Yeah.
They've had a real enough. And proposals like this, common sense, whether that's financially commonsensical or whatever, you might be met with derision if you stand in Parliament or by certain members of the left-wing press. But I bet my bottom dollar a majority of people in this country, as the days and weeks and months go by, are getting increasingly fed up.
There's a massive lobby, as we could see this when the Labour Party actually did try, if we can cast our minds back to the Keir Starmer government and all the mistakes that they made.
The what?
They did try, the Keir Starmer government...
To cut $5 billion.
To barely touch it. And do you remember the insane, ferocious response from not just people within the Labour Party, but from all these people working at NGOs, lobbyists, etc., saying, how could you do this? You're going to kill people. This is what an evil thing to do. And that was for £5 billion less than we were currently spending. This is a much bigger proposed cut. These people are going to have the knives out, they're going to be trying to go for reform, they're going to try and get them on technicalities, but we should applaud them for actually having the guts to do this.
No, I completely agree. 6:15, what do you make of it? 03... Is that a engineer? Is somebody arrived? No, it's not a heating engineer. By the way, they're all texting going, you look sweaty. Yeah, because it's about 30 degrees in here. And this is... I want to tell you something, right? I was in the middle of my holiday and I was fast asleep. One of my grandchildren took a picture of me and the light was obviously shining away. And my grandchild said, Grandad, you're white. My hair. So it became... And the bloody first text I've had this morning is, morning, Jeremy, is it just the lights or is your hair greyer? I thought you were Ian Collins for a minute. You just missing the glasses, is Bitu. No, I'm not Ian Collins. I'm not the housewife's choice, and he's far nicer than I am. But yeah, no, but it's the sun, isn't it, that's made my hair
Are
grow.
you sure it's not 2 weeks in Centre Park?
Morning, Jeremy. Good to see you back after your holiday. You have quite the glow. Are you with child, says Keith in Nottingham. Yes, I'm pregnant. I'm the first man. Brilliant, fantastic. Now, why are you laughing? George, first voice note back. George, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Hope you had a lovely holiday with the family. It's George from Leicester. So when that stupid alarm went off the other day, how did it affect you? Me and the missus having a bit of how's your father, and yeah, all I can say is it spoilt the mood. Have a good one, mate.
A bit of how's your father at 7 o'clock?
That's very nice.
Look at her face.
Oh, that's very nice. Well, it was a nice sunny evening that Friday. I do recall. That's quite lovely.
See, now, if I was not doing a news programme, I know what the next 3 hours will be about. What's the perfect time of day to have sex?
Well, not when the government's sending out emergency alarm. That's the answer.
Look at Christian. Bedtime, says Christian. Oh, that's so romantic. Are you a morning person?
No, I'm not a morning person.
No, neither am I. I can't be doing all that bad breath.
No, we're wrong line of work here, aren't we?
Well, I'm too busy with my poo card. On a serious note, when it went off, I literally, I don't know where I was. I just remember thinking, what the... I thought it was, and don't laugh, I thought it was a washing machine or a whatever. So a fridge alarm or something had gone off, or the alarm. This is Louise Haig, her of the trainer fame, isn't it? I mean, what did you make of that? Is that right or wrong? A lot of people were very anti them using it for that.
Absolutely hated it. You know, I was actually on the tube when it started going off, and you could see...
I thought you couldn't get a signal on the tube. How did it work?
No, the district line where you've got Wi-Fi the whole time, right? And you could see there were lots of tourists. It was a Friday evening, so it's quite busy, right?
Yeah.
You could see lots of tourists who are looking around going, what the hell is going on? Is there some kind of missile attack?
Yeah.
Every person's phone is going off in like a slightly staggered way. So one person turns it off and then someone else's phone goes on. My phone went off 4 times before I just turned every single emergency alert off. So if there is an attack, by the way, on Russia, that it's like dropping a nuclear bomb in London, I'm not going to have the advance warning. Thanks, Andy Burnham.
And I don't want to be cynical, and it was only because my kid, one of them is 17, and he said his phone was off, charging, so he turned his on 4 hours later. I'm now sitting watching the golf with a glass of wine. Bloody thing went off again when he turned his phone on. They didn't... So if your phone was off, you didn't get the alert. It doesn't come through, right?
Oh, it's absolutely... But I'm sorry, this is so absolutely ridiculous.
Let's let the boats in, but don't have a barbecue.
Can we just talk about the fact that they put out an emergency alert for barbecues?
Yeah.
And a warning for wildfires, regardless of where you are in the country. So you could have been like I was in central London. There's not a tree in sight. Not a tree in sight, and you'd be warned, don't use your barbecue in central London because there could be a wildfire apparently outside of the River Thames. What a ridiculous, intrusive, stupid thing for the government to do. Thanks a lot, Andy Burnham. I guess that Cobra meeting was very productive. Oh, it really irritated me.
Sorry, I'm slightly put off by Rob, who says, do it in your underpants and stop moaning. There's no way I can do it in my underpants. Poppy's here. And Rob, if I do it in my underpants, it could be a disaster. She's laughing again about my poo card. It did seem particularly trivial. Well, talking of which, and again, because I've been away, what have you made of the first few weeks of The Messiah from Manchester? I would say this. His politics is, irrespective, his political... how do I put this? What's the right word? The way it looks is infinitely better than what came before, but I'm worried about substance.
I just think it's very difficult to make a judgment on what Andy Burnham's doing while we're in the silly season period, while we've got parliamentary recess, because, frankly, he can do things like, oh, I'm going on a listening tour.
What's that, a listening tour? Does that mean he's not going to speak?
It means you haven't got anything to do. And at least in his mind, he thinks he hasn't got anything to do. Just wait, he will be as hated, if not more hated, than Keir Starmer.
Do you reckon?
I 100% believe that. It doesn't matter how great a messenger you are. You could be like a Churchill-style public speaker in this country. If you share the politics of Andy Burnham, you are going to be hated very quickly, because it means you won't actually make any of the changes that people are asking for. He's not going to stop the votes. He's not going to get the benefits bills down. He's not going to lower your taxes. He's not going to improve your quality of life. And so even if he's fluttering his eyelashes at you, you'll probably resent him even more for that. So I really, really strongly think that Andy Burnham is not going to be the change that we need. I know he's talked a lot about all the things he wants to do. As far as I can tell, none of it actually has any substance. He's just saying things he would like to happen. It's
really interesting. Bill from Rumsey. Morning, both. Do you think that Labour will react to Reform's policy to state benefits by granting more foreigners with a British passport?
Well, that's the one way that they'll probably deal with it is by pushing people towards getting citizenship and moving on the ILR path. As we still remember, the Shabana Mahmood, her common-sense ILR reforms, which were backed by all the other parties, well, at least all the parties that are worth listening to, everyone else in the Labour Party absolutely hated them. So.
Bill's in Cheshire. Morning, both. Emergency alarms. How about this useless and worthless government sending out daily warning messages to the population every time a boatload of undocumented illegal migrant men of fighting age arrive on our shores? At least women and kids could have some prior warning. Great point. Morning to Mark in Croydon. Morning. Welcome back, Jess. DEI did cost Jason Arday his life, but DEI can cost other people their lives and companies as people over promoting up to scratch, which is dangerous. It should be the best person to do the job, no matter race or religion. I want to come back and talk to you about that. What is it, 21 minutes past 6? We're live across the UK. JK back on breakfast. You want to be on? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Back in 3.
to the public that you are doing everything.
But the key thing here, as you say, he's the Prime Minister. He has the power, as did previous Prime Ministers, to do things like build more prisons and failed to do so. This has been the first real test of Anti-Burnham, where I'm going to please everybody, I'm Mr Nice Guy, Dan Hodges thinks I'm great, and then he's failed it at the first attempt.
I don't think he's
I mean, I've been reading your columns, Dan.
Hodges,
I mean, come on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, 6:24, we're live across the UK. What are you waking up to? You're waking up to the news that Reform UK are back on the front foot. They're saying, if elected, they would make major savings of $50 billion with the welfare benefits bill. And it's interesting, this. It's something that's really got you going. Robert Jennett will make a speech at 11 o'clock this morning. People will jump up and down and say, oh, those poor people. I've been arguing about this for ages. Face to face, it shouldn't be a choice. It should for people who need it. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Regarding reform and the benefits, the cuts that could be made, you know, for the services instead of cash, fantastic. As an alarm clock Brit, all I see all the time is my tax and NI contributions going up. Okay, so I'm right behind this. Yeah, of course, the genuinely disabled people and the ones with real problems will get help. There's no two ways about that. That's been said. But the ones that have got conditions where, oh, got ADHD, like one of my children have, guess what? Still get up and get on with it. People with ADHD have got a high energy drive. So, get them into a workplace with high energy. Come on, this is fantastic. And also, regarding reform with the Zia Yusuf potential argument and everything that's gone on, alleged, I should say, if that's the case, I'd rather Zia stay, but if that's the case, bring back Ben Habib. Come on, let's go.
0344 499 1000. We'll speak to Richard Tice in just a minute. Also, this is interesting. I want to put this to Richard. Mike in Newcastle. Jez, I was an alarm clock Brit until I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Under reform's proposals, I'm guessing I would receive bugger all. Just remember, Parkinson's, MS, cancer and heart attacks can happen to anyone. Really good point. Poppy Coburn is in the building. This story really got me. The head of a Cambridge college has called for an investigation into the media onslaught against Jason Arday. Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College, Cambridge, said that Arday had been subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt before his death on Friday. So I watched this and I said it in the introduction. I have been in that moment, like Jason Arday was, right? And it's a horrendous moment to be in. However, much as people have jumped up and down and pointed the finger at the media, is it not true to say that the people around him failed him? The judgment of faceless people at the top of institutions who accepted his claims and built him up as some token of whatever he was to represent are as guilty as allegedly other people are being made to feel. Do you not agree with that? Because I think that's absolutely spot on.
Completely do. And the one thing I will say as well, because it seems like the left forget this every single time it's convenient for them, but suicide is not someone proving a point. It's not something that you can bring up as a kind of excuse then to turn around and attack your political enemies. It is a personal choice that someone's made, and to draw any lessons from it is very, very dangerous indeed, because what you're telling people is if they feel that they've been attacked by someone, they can go, look, told you so, look, I'm doing this, and it's a kind of like almost spiteful thing. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do. That is not how we should talk about mental health in that way, and I think the way that the left has responded to the death of Jason Arday has been incredibly cynical and irresponsible. No one is responsible for this man's death. No one in the media is responsible for this man's death, OK? No one's done that, and it's very, very unfair to say that. Going into what Cambridge University has done, I think for them, they're now going to turn around and say, we've got no duty of care. It was totally fine that we put a press release out saying he was the youngest black professor in the United Kingdom. We were desperate for this person to be a public figure. Totally fine that we ignored the multiple concerns that were raised by academics for years, that he was a plagiarist, that he wasn't teaching students properly. Totally fine that an academic in their early career has missed out on an all-important job because he got that job even though he wasn't qualified for it. No, 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 it's all the nasty right-wing press. We can totally remove any responsibility that we had for hiring this man, for promoting him, as we did for years and years and years, we can just say it's a smear against him. You know that they're still not acknowledging, many of the Cambridge colleges, they're not even acknowledging that he was a plagiarist. They now just completely dropped that. If you're an early career academic, what is your takeaway from this entire scandal? Seriously, what is your takeaway from this? It's that if you can turn it into a partisan political moment, you can just step back and ignore it. Doesn't matter. What does standards matter anymore in academia? We've all just admitted that academia isn't about actually learning anything. It's about making you feel good. I just think it's disgusting.
Can I say something without sounding like your dad? That's the best description I've heard. I read Sarah Vine, who you know I love. She said that Jason Arday's death is a tragedy that should force everyone to pause for reflection. Starting, says the excellent Sarah Vine, with those who thrust him into the spotlight for their own ends. Completely agree with both of you. That does not take away at all the tragedy of a man who's no longer here.
Yep.
That's our family man.
Kids.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely heartbreaking and tragic. But the response of this from the left has been... You know, last night I was looking at Instagram and there was some woman, he's got quite a few followers, and she was producing a list of every journalist, you know, there was several posts about this, every single journalist who reported on Jason Arday, including, by the way, the journalist that Jason Arday called the police on and tried to get Carter Ruck to do a defamation suit against. This is their response to the death of Jason Arday. They now think you can hound every single person who was doing their job. That is a completely wrong thing to do. I mean, how ridiculous are you looking at that
and listening to you, and I can hear the passion, and I know that you know what I think about you as a person, as a journalist, and there are two sides to this, and it's so important we get that out there. 6:30, let's not go anywhere. What we should do, this is a man who's so desperate to be on this show. When I came back, he texted me 3 times yesterday and said, please, Jez, please, can I come on, because I've missed you so much. Deputy Leader of Reform, Richard Tice, good morning.
Very good morning, Jeremy. I'm glad that you found your way back to the studio after such a long absence. Lovely to see you looking bright and chirpy.
I don't feel bright and chirpy. The studio's like a heat wave. The air conditioning's broken, and I've had 2 bloody weeks of screaming children, Tice. So I'm happy to be back, dear boy. Listen, thanks for the early shot. I was very straight to you when we spoke before I went away. I wanted and want reform on the front foot, doing the things that I think makes reform unique in British politics. And Robert Jenrick today, a major speech 11 o'clock, saying that you would ban foreigners, not only ban foreigners from claiming benefits, but you're going to go further. We're talking about pension credit, job seekers allowance, child benefit, free childcare and disability. The Times saying as well this idea of swapping cash in effect for things that would matter if you were mentally ill, be it therapy, be it whatever it is. This is music, Richard, to millions of people's ears, because this, and I've said this to you before, when I grew up, you went to work or college. Now, I don't care what anybody tells me, you can go to work or college or sign on. It was never meant to be a career choice, and somebody, please God it's reform, has to grab this and do something about it, however unpopular, right?
Well, that's right, Jeremy, and the title of our reform plans is Making Welfare Work, because, of course, we all want to protect pensioners, the needy, the genuinely sick, the genuinely looking for work, and the vulnerable. That is without question, and that's the standing assumption. However, there are so many people who are trapped on a benefit system that was well-intentioned but has just gone in the wrong direction. And so many, by being trapped on it, they can't get off it or out of it back into work. And we all know that work is a great thing. You get up earlier than most people, as do your wonderful listeners and viewers. So we have to be able to reform the system to encourage just working people, working claimants, back to work where possible. And I reassure your previous message, I think it was from Mike, with regard to...
Oh, yes, let me read that. Thank you. Yeah, he said I was an alarm clock Brit, and he wanted me to ask you, it's diagnosed with Parkinson's until... But under reforms process, I would suspect I'll receive nothing. And he just said Parkinson's, MS, cancer and heart attacks can happen to anyone. You respond, that's great.
The clear point is that, of course, someone in that situation would be protected. In fact, it's in order to protect them as they absolutely need and require that we need to make the reforms that we're talking about, for example, to overseas claimants and future claimants, and to say to those who might have some anxiety, some issues around a bit of, feeling a bit rough on a Monday morning that they might think is depression. Actually, folks, for those people, work is a good thing, getting busy is a good thing, and it helps provide dignity and energy and enthusiasm and gets one going again. And it's a great example to your family and those around you. I think we can achieve the best of both worlds. That's what Robert is going to be promoting. It's a very serious plan. And it's not going to happen overnight. It takes a number of years, but face-to-face assessments is a key thing in order to help those, in particular, who want to get back to work but are trapped on the system and can't.
And that's the point. It was supposed to be a crutch. And what frustrates me doing what I do, and we've talked about this privately, is whenever anybody has the balls to stand up and say, this bill is out of control, people can sign up online and get 6 months of money by saying I'm having a bad Monday. That's just, I'll swear in a minute, that's ridiculous. Of course, though, the minute you make that, the left jump up and go, oh, I mean, look, what was it? Starmer tried to cut 5 billion. You're talking 10 times that, and the left went into meltdown because they're terrified. But I'm with you. I think that, you know, if you're on the long-term sick or you're on the long-term dole, there will be things that you can do, and nobody ever talks about from the person's point of view. Sitting at home, vegetating, feeling sorry for yourself with no future, no friends, just not meeting anybody, getting out doing some sort of job that you have skills to do is absolutely what it's all about, isn't it?
And that's the key point, is the current system basically abandons people.
Yeah.
It just leaves them on the scrap heap, where actually what they really want is some support, somebody to say, actually, you know, let's gradually help you back into helping the community, doing some work on a gradual basis. And then you work out, you know, for each individual on a specific case-by-case basis, actually, you know, what people can achieve. And we think that is the right thing. And look, no one's saying this stuff is easy, but the reality is it must be worth trying, because I think we can get the best of both worlds. There are other international examples. For example, the Dutch have done a very clever system with regard to employers helping, because employers are fantastic people to get people, to motivate people back into work. And the Dutch have secured some amazing results. I think they've reduced their numbers by about 40%. I mean, you know, that is worth trying. And
absolutely.
We have to have the courage to try things. Are we saying everything's perfect and we'll get 100% right? No. What we're saying is we've got the courage to try it and to help people who want to work back into work, contributing to their families and their communities.
You won't mind me asking this. I mean, obviously, for me, I said it when we started, I want reform on the front foot, as do Alarm Clock Brits. People are saying, are the recent woes gone? Nigel, of course, reopened that parliamentary standards investigation. In fact, I was going to say this to you. I remember Kemi Badenoch being asked about, was she running a candidate in Clacton? And she went, no, I'll do it at the real by-election, which tells me already they've decided he's guilty. Sources over the weekend, I'm told, this was Christian told me this, Nigel Farage has reportedly fallen out of love with Zia Youssef. What's going on, Richard Tice?
Absolute claptrap. Look, some people make stuff up in order to fill newspapers. Perish the thought when they're a bit desperate, when they've sent 18 tweets out in one day about reform. Some people are genuinely obsessed with us. They can't get us out of their heads. They need to live a little bit more. I just think,
is it reform derangement syndrome?
We're obviously we're delighted with the incredibly successful result last Thursday night. Nigel securing 1,000 more votes on a lower turnout, as you'd expect in a by-election. Now we've got these policies that we're announcing this week. Just last Monday, Jezza, whilst you were on your sun lounger, Zia was announcing, you know, fantastic proposals, Operation Fortress. Yeah. Small boats have turned into big boats. They're about to turn into cruise lines.
Well, there's a story today I wanted you... This is bloody unbelievable. And Richard, to his credit, brought this to our attention. Mega dinghies from China are being shipped through Britain before criminal gangs pack them with migrants to cross the Channel. This is a revelation after one 15-metre mega vessel, we saw this picture last week, 230 people to Dover. So mega dinghies from China are being shipped through this country to France to then pick up 230 illegal migrants to come back to this bloody country. Why don't we stop them coming through or seize them, Richard Tice?
Well, that's why we said, actually, what you need to do is you need to rescue and return. That is the humanitarian, safe, compassionate thing to do. Do you know you get more people on that boat of 230 than you get on a Boeing 737? I mean, it's just unbelievable what is going on. And Labour are so totally and utterly out of touch. They keep blathering on that they're making progress. They're not smashing the gangs at all. The gangs have just adapted.
Yeah.
Bigger boats, more people coming in lorries and on buses. I don't believe the numbers are down at all. I just think they are finding different ways to get here. And that is the reality, and that's why we've got to be strong and robust about it.
And do you know the reality? Every single day, I mean, OK, I've been away, but I can tell you that every single day there are two major things in people's minds who listen to this radio station. One is stopping the boats, illegal immigration, unvetted males running amok in our country, and the other is the welfare benefits bill, which is exactly why, what Robert's doing this morning and what we're talking about is central, because it strikes me that there will always be people on the left who will jump up and down and say, I've had this argument with so many, these poor... No, they're not poor people. They're not coming from a war-torn country. They're unvetted men who are coming here to wreak havoc, I would suspect. And the same with welfare benefits. And that's what people want their politicians to do, to be able to make critical choices that maybe aren't popular with many.
And it's about fairness, Jeremy. And what is completely unfair is that the vast majority of those 230 will either end up going onto the black market in some form of modern-day slavery, or they'll end up on the benefits bill.
Yeah.
And both of those are patently wrong, and that's why it is the right thing to do, the fair thing to do for British citizens to stop it. And that's what Zia is leading the way and doing a brilliant job at it.
Do you think that Nigel will face a second by-election in Clacton, by the way?
Who knows? But we've got the data, we've got the support. Nigel's got huge support in Clacton. And frankly, I think all of the other parties, they're running for it. They're cowards. Who knows? But whatever happens, we're pushing on. And, we plan to win. We have to win, Jeremy, because otherwise this country that desperately needs saving is heading towards economic, cultural and societal collapse.
Can I just say, you're looking rather well. I'm looking a bit sort of sweaty, I am, this morning. You're looking quite suave, Tice. Somebody said to me, my hair's lighter. I'm saying the sun, but it could be age. This emergency alert, before I let you know? A woman came on earlier, or a man, said that he was in the middle of making love to his wife, and it put him off. What were you doing when the emergency alarm went off, Tice, man?
I was in Lincolnshire, and my alert didn't go off. I don't know whether, whether or not...
Why? We're not sending the reform people. We're not going to tell anybody that supports reform. They're not getting them. And then they'll have a barbecue and we can arrest them because they're all terrible people, right?
I don't know. But, honestly, look, we all like technology, but I do think that they completely messed up on this.
Unbelievable.
And the danger is actually, if you cry wolf on this stuff too often, then when it's really serious and it really matters, people say, oh, it's just another one.
You're just... I'm not looking... Oh, it's a nuclear weapon. I should have looked. Richard Tice, great to be back with you, mate. Thank you.
See you bright and early, Jeremy.
Good man, so good. At 11 o'clock this morning, Robert Jenrick announcing those new welfare plans, courtesy of Reform. Thank you to Richard Tice. Just gone 20 to 7. More of Pops in a minute. Wayne, though, now.
Morning, Jezza. You're looking well, mates. Obviously agreed with you. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. Morning, Poppy. That's true, mate. What we should do, we should have an alert every single time a boat comes. Imagine that. What a sight that would be. Nobody's phone had stopped ringing. But I'll tell you what it'd do, it'd shame this bloody government. Keep up the good work, guys.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. I was whispering to Poppy Coburn, very professional, 17 minutes 7. Poppy, hello. Can we look at the front page of The Sun? Because this infuriates the bits off me. Henry Novak's killer will be allowed prison-to-prison video chats with his jailbird mum. Henry's grieving mum, however, can never speak to her son again. This is Vikram Digwa, this horrendous human being, is allowed to have a video call with his mother, who's serving 3 years for allowing him to have the weapon. What the hell's gone wrong again?
Yeah, let's not forget that when Vikram Digwa killed Henry Novak and then lied to the police about it, his mum quickly took the knife that he had used to stab Henry Novak and hid it from the police.
And she only got 3 years?
She only got 3 years.
I'd have given her 20 years as well.
And there was a big delay, by the way, in going after the family, and I do wonder if it weren't for the public outcry, if they'd even have been prosecuted at all. So, knowing what we know about the fact that this woman helped cover up a murder, because that's what she did, why, and I need some answers from this, I need someone in the prison service to tell me why is someone who helped cover up their son's murder allowed to speak to each other?
They're not in the same prison, absolutely. No idea.
I understand that, OK, regardless of what crime people have committed, there are privileges in jail where you're allowed to speak to family members on the outside. They're supposed to be, A, privileges that you earn through good behaviour.
Absolutely.
He's been in jail for, what, 5 minutes? 2, B, even, why are you allowed to speak to another criminal? Is that normal? 2 people in jail are allowed to speak to each other? Since when?
You know, you said privileges as well. I mean, to me, that... I can't even put to words what I think of that. I mean, Harry's only got 20 years. I'd lock him up for life. Her, a mother, hiding the weapon?
Yeah.
And all that stuff about the police doing the right thing to the detriment of a young white man who's gasping for his life on the floor saying, I think I've been stabbed, and the cop goes, I don't think so, mate. And even now, we're kowtowing, right? Why are we kowtowing?
Henry Novak, who was smeared as a racist... on the day that he was murdered, smeared as a racist, we had to get that awful, and it plays in my mind sometimes, that awful body cam footage of how the police officers treated him at the scene. Don't think you are, mate, tying his hands behind his back with his bleeding to death on the ground. Just a miscarriage of justice if there ever was one.
When he should have been having administered the last rites, they were reading him his rights.
It's just disgusting. And I think the entire
nation
nation
allowed
was
to speak to her
disgusted
son.
by it.
I'd love to know what you think of this. It's absolutely outrageous. Great piece on the front page of The Sun today. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Jez. Morning, Pops. Damon from Wigan. When the government message came through, I wondered what the hell is going on. By the time I read it, I'd burnt all the bloody sausages on my barbecue. Richie from Mid-Sussex. A very good morning to you, Poppy. Good morning, Jeremy. The government's alert that went out, I didn't get it because when it was a couple of years ago when they did the test, I went into my phone settings and turned them off so I don't get them.
Very smart.
What's a good time of day to have sex? Any time's a good time. Brilliant, well done, fantastic. Morning, Jez and Poppy. Read the alert. Why not to bring back public information films? There's a much more sensible way of getting information across. Dave's in Dorset. Morning, Jez, Poppy. Can you please elaborate on your poo card, Jez? My wife has Crohn's too. No, not at the moment. Morning, Jez. Poppy, brilliant, says Steve in Cambridge. No mention to me at all. JK and Poppy, Burnham will never stop the boats. He has no intention, no plan. And where is Shabana? Not a word about the mega boat invention. DEI, enough is enough. Henry Novak may still be alive. Arday may also still be alive. Get rid of DEI. Morning to Sean in Gloucester. I'm absolutely fed at the back teeth with hearing the false sympathy about Jason Arday, not to mention the not-so-subtle undercurrent of racism in their accusations. The man lived a lie. He should never have been in the position and was put there and only got appointed because he was a poster boy for a narrative, and that is why DEI is really dangerous. Couldn't agree more. Jez, while Burnham is a better media performer than Starmer, that was a very low bar, and actually I think Burnham's media performance has really gone downhill very quickly with far too many word salad interviews littered with ums and ers, and that will only get worse as he comes under more challenge and scrutiny. Nicola in Norfolk. And finally, Jez and Poppy, read the alert. Why not bring back, we've done that already. Actually, which gets me thinking, let's just do this through the morning. Where were you when the alert went off?
Yeah.
Poppy Coburn was on the train. A man earlier was having sex. I was emptying the washing machine. Now, I don't really... Why is that funny?
Sorry, it's just the difference between somebody who was having sex
It's not rock and roll, is it?
I'm filling the washing machine.
I know. I probably got more... I spent more time doing the washing machine than... Anyway, listen, my next guest is somebody who I thought was a friend of mine, but patently not. Let's go stateside to the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Kinsey Schofield, hello.
What did I do?
You know what you did.
I don't.
You don't know what you did?
I don't know what I
You
did.
post pictures all over your Facebook and your Instagram about you and your friend Mark Dolan having a nice time.
Oh, did you see the
in
comments
America.
underneath
You
this?
don't even talk to me anymore. I made you, I created you, I got you on Jimmy Kimmel, and you treat me like some sort of piece of meat. Well, I've had it. Not doing it anymore.
That's so. Did you see the comments where some of the comments said Jeremy Kyle's going to be jealous? And here we are.
I was in bloody Centre Parks with children screaming, "Daddy or Grandad, can I have some Weetabix?" I was raging, heartbroken.
Come see me in California. I'd love to take you around my neighborhood.
But you see, I wouldn't feel special anymore because you've taken Dolan first. And how did you get to say good morning? Did you stand on a ladder?
Well, he was late. He was extremely late. If you were on time.
He's always late.
If you were on time, then it would be a completely different experience.
Poppy's here. Poppy's in great form this morning. Poppy and Kinsey love each other, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Maybe we should go to LA.
See, I'm not so possessive like you are, Jeremy. You know, Kinsey's got her own life. She can see who she likes. You're just jealous.
Don't know about that. Anyway, Kins, there's his baby. Listen, there's this story this morning, and I get this. Have you read this? Fury, as there's a plan still in place for a multi-million-pound state funeral for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, despite all the outrage, right outrage about his disgusting behaviour and his friendship with Epstein. What? Who the hell made this decision, Kins?
I believe I'm a woman among friends between you and Poppy, and I'm going to state the obvious here. The working royals are in Balmoral right now. They are under the radar. We're getting no content. You know, they are away from the public. They're away from cameras. And so we, as journalists, are having to write about something. And I guess this is it, but I think we should save our outrage for something that's actually going to happen. His funeral could be decades away. I promise you, nobody at Buckingham Palace is currently polishing the trumpets. There's absolutely no way after everything that's happened with Andrew that we're going to see some enormous taxpayer-funded royal extravaganza celebrating his life. Whitehall having a file marked what happens when Andrew dies isn't a promise of pomp and pageantry. You know, it's a contingency plan.
It's really interesting that because what do I say? She's spot on, isn't she? Because
Yeah.
the outrage of even. I must tell you both this. Went to Norfolk, lots of children, lovely cottage on the beach, and went to Sandringham. Have you been to Sandringham, Kinsey?
I haven't. You get to one-up me here. Yes, that sounds amazing.
I went to Sandringham. I went into the building. I walked through the gardens. It was absolutely boring. No, it wasn't. It was great. Let's look at a house. That's nice. No, Sandringham's impressive, but I kept... This is absolutely true. I said, sit there, bunch of children. I'll get you ice creams. Just avoid the wasps. And as I walked to the ice cream thing, I thought, oh, I wonder how close Wood Farm is. Seriously. Because that's where he lives, isn't it? Old Mountbatten Windsor. So, yeah, I was quite close to Andrew.
You didn't fancy
that's
walking
not
over and
something
saying hello?
What did you say?
You didn't fancy walking over and saying hello?
No, but I do remember there is a story in where my parents, who are both dead, used to live. There was a road saying Prince Andrew's Close, right? And they they all wanted it taken away. Prince Andrew's Close.
Far. Prince Andrew's far. That's all simple. Just change the last
Have you not
word.
been to Sandringham then with your royal friends, with Mark Dolan or something then, Kins? No?
I have yet to experience it, but I'd love to see it.
I'll take you. So you think this is just a story made up, really, just to get just a bit of column inches, right?
I'm sure that those plans just haven't been updated yet. I mean, you've seen how quickly your government moves, and I'm being facetious there.
Yeah.
You've seen how quickly everything moves there, unless there's the new prime minister, and then they get real excited and they just throw them in that role. But I just think that it's something that hasn't been dealt with yet. Realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. No. I think his funeral will go under the radar. And it will not be a big celebration because that would reflect very poorly on the British royal family. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is the biggest liability that the royal family has seen in my lifetime.
Bigger than Harry and Meghan?
Yes, absolutely.
How are they? I've heard nothing. I haven't spoken about them or thought about them for 2 weeks. What's the latest? Is she making more jam or something?
Well, I cannot believe that you've been so out of the loop. I'm jealous. She challenged Martha Stewart. She basically called Martha Stewart a liar in the last few weeks. And also her movie Cookie Queens was beat at the box office by a 70-minute cat montage video. So you have missed a few things.
That's like this breakfast show. It's beaten every day by... Anyway, don't worry. I'm joking. So a cat montage beat Megan's short... What was her short film about herself?
Cookie Queens, which is about American Girl Scouts, being mini entrepreneurs and trying to outsell each other with Girl Scout cookies. I will say that a more relevant headline is that Harry is planning on spending more time in the United Kingdom. That was in the Telegraph, with friends saying that. And JK, I mean, you've heard him as much as I have over the last few years talking about how miserable the United Kingdom is. It literally blows your mind that now suddenly he wants to come back. In the royal family appears to be so much more attractive when Hollywood stops returning his calls.
Completely agree. I completely agree. The hypocrisy is enough to do my head in. I'm sorry you weren't in England. You didn't hear our alert. That was to tell us not to use barbecues, not that there was a nuclear weapon heading in our direction. We love you, though. I just was jealous. I've had to deal with it, but Poppy's absolutely right. I have to man up. Thank you to Rob. I'm not reading that out. Love you, Kins. Thank you so much indeed, my darling. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. What's happened to your eye now?
Oh, just got something in my eye, that's all.
Probably because you were horrible to me. It's probably your conscience kicking in. Can I ask you something? What? You know, we were talking about this whole sort of situation with I don't know about Henry Novak, right? What do you think people genuinely think about? I mean, you think about Jason Arday, you think about Henry Novak. We could never talk about, that's racist to even have that. The left have come out and said that what happened to Jason Arday is racism in journalism. I can sit here, and I'm allowed to have this opinion, and say that the way that the police treated Henry Novak and Vikram Digra was complete. I thought that was reverse racism. Yeah. I thought it was utterly appalling, and so the continuance happens with his mother in prison. Well, why can't we have that discussion?
If we're drawing attention to these two cases, in one case, Henry Novak, for all we can tell, police unit was given anti-racist training, which meant they were supposed to treat white candidates more harshly and let ethnic minority candidates off the hook. And frankly, that is what happened that evening. Despite the fact that Vikram Digra was the man who actually murdered him, his claims of racism were believed. Henry Novak was not. If you want to talk about racism in the Jason Arday case, I'm sorry. The idea that this person was discriminated against because of his race is frankly ridiculous. It is not normal when a professor is hired by any university, let alone Cambridge University, for them to put out a press release. What does it tell you that they put out a press release? Well, they were really excited because they thought it meant that they were wonderful, virtuous, good liberals, so they could prove to the world how enlightened they are to the rest of us. He was actually given every opportunity, so many chances to exceed in his academic career, ended up with a six-figure salary for it. OK, I just will not accept this idea that these are two different sides of the same coin and everyone's got a different opinion. What actually matters is what is the structural reality of how people are treated on based different races. I can prove that there is a serious problem with anti-white racism in this country, that people are actually being discriminated against. Frankly, I don't think the same burden of proof is being put on the left. I think they're just allowed to get away with it.
I love you. Do you know that?
Thank you.
No, I don't. Anyway, I don't mean that. That doesn't sound all right, does it? So, the wonderful... Are you back? No, I'm doing Friday this week, because I'm straight through now. Are you doing Friday?
I could do Friday.
What day are you doing?
I was going to do Thursday.
You can do Thursday. You can do whatever you want. The amazing...
So jealous.
What?
So jealous.
You can't be jealous. She's amazing, Poppy Coburn. Thank you very much indeed. She's back Thursday. JK and Pops, why are they mollycoddling Henry Novak's killer? This is two-tier rubbish again, and he gets to speak to his mother. Christine Richard, lovely to see you back. Hope you had a good time. The country's on its arse. Yeah, it is. Morning, JK. I see ministers are in crisis talks regarding car washes to the swimming pool. She'd love. They've got 30 seconds. Does this mean Andy Ermin will be sending more alerts telling us not to wash our cars, says Dave Incon? That could happen.
That could quite possibly happen. Are we going to be told we're not allowed to have tap water next?
Am I going to have to drain my pool?
Heaven forbid!
Well, I mean, how's that going to work? Where am I going to go for a swim? My grass is green. Do you know why?
Why?
Because my hose is now identifying as a watering can. 0344. Well, I can't be doing with that rubbish. 0344. There'll be rain in a couple of months and we'll be under siege.
It's supposed to rain today. It's supposed to rain today.
Come on, rain. It's good for my lawn. Boring old bugger. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222 and the brilliant Poppy Coburn is back on Thursday, back after 7.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The entire city is being overwhelmed, and there are people who bear direct responsibility. Those responsible are the national government, led by Pedro Sanchez, and his ministers, as well as Mr. Mala.
They're just invading the country, and what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law. They passed a couple of laws, and people read. You know, people are smart. They read from other countries, and they swam that thing that Biden did, is allowing 25 million people into our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back and welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock. You are with Talk Breakfast. We're live across the UK on the home of common sense, and it's you, the alarm clock Brits. You know the score by now. I'm back from 2 weeks off. Your say, your views on the news of the day. We want them. We need them. 0344 499 1000. 0344 499 1000. Your text to 87222. What are you waking up to? You're waking up to the news at Reform UK this morning at 11 o'clock. Robert Jennett will make a major announcement. Apart from also, they've already said this, banning foreigners from claiming benefits. They're going further. They say they can save £50 billion by finally saying to lots of people on job seekers allowance, pension credit, housing benefit, child benefit, free childcare benefit, disability benefit, you're not going to get it pro rata. You're not going to get it just... You're going to have to turn up. You're going to have to do a face-to-face interview. You're going to have to justify the fact. You can't just get 6 months anxiety money. They are saying that a lot of people, genuine claimants, would get... They'd swap money for benefits. So if you are mentally ill, therapy, if you are in need of physical therapy, maybe... I don't know. It's quite a practical way of looking at it. They say they can save 50 billion. Do you believe them? 0344 499 1000. We talked to Reform's Richard Tice. Let's now go to... I love this man. Shadow Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. That's a mouthful. So James Cleverly, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for the kind introduction.
Before we get serious, where were you when the government thought it important to tell me that I wasn't allowed to have a barbecue when I feared a nuclear weapon had just gone off? What were you doing, James Cleverly?
I was sitting in the garden having a quiet evening drink with my lovely wife. And look, this emergency communications is meant for genuine emergencies, time-sensitive information that the whole nation needs to hear all at once. This could have been a social media campaign, it could have been online advertising. This is clearly a government drunk on a bit of power, abusing what should be an emergency-only facility.
What do you make, before we get specific today, what do you make of the first few weeks of Andy Burnham? And a lot of people have been very quick to say, communications-wise, aesthetically better than Keir Starmer. I think this banana would have been better than Keir Starmer personally, but the depth is what people are looking for, James, and many are saying that it's much of the same as before.
Well, look, he is a more personable individual. I've met him before. I've worked with him a little bit when I was Home Secretary. He is a naturally better communicator than Keir Starmer, but the fundamentals haven't changed. This is Labour government that is still ramping up people's taxes, ramping up taxes on business. He has a much more comfortable communication style, but ultimately is not experienced in making the really big decisions. And we've seen this with the early release scheme, making commitments that he now realises it's difficult to make, and dodging the really tough decisions. So communications, I'd give him maybe 8 out of 10. In terms of actual decision making and being a good Prime Minister, at the moment it's a fail from me, I'm afraid.
You touched upon something that wasn't on my running order, but I wanted to ask you anyway, because I read this while I was away. How is it, and you were Home Secretary, how is it that an elected government or a Prime Minister of whatever party does not have the power? I'm talking about PC Andrew Harper's killers. If I was the Prime Minister this morning, why can I not say they are not being released from jail, I'm passing a law? I don't understand that, and neither did the general public, James.
Well, the point is that if he wants to make sure they stay behind bars, a couple of things he could do. Firstly, he could scrap the early release scheme for violent offenders. The Conservatives, we did put in place an early release scheme, but it was never for those most serious crimes. It was never for murderers, never for people involved with manslaughter, rapists, sexual predators. They were never included. Labour decided to include that kind of prisoner, and this is the inevitable consequence. And if he doesn't want those individuals released, he has to make it equal and fair for all the people incarcerated for the same offences. And that's the problem. What you can't do is you can't pick and choose people just because they're in the headlines. You have to treat people equally, even when those people are prisoners. And that is the very simple principle of government these somehow fail to understand.
This, again, is a personal thing, but I think it will resonate with lots of people. Where does the Tory party stand on, if I give you 5 years, you're serving 5 years? And in terms of getting rid of foreign criminals, yes, but why don't you just build some more bloody prisons? Why don't you cut the welfare benefits bill and build more prisons and make people understand that when you break the law and you're given a sentence, you serve time for that?
Well, we were in the process of modernising our prison estate. We built loads of prison places. We also closed some of the oldest and, I suppose, least appropriate prison estate in the UK. Ultimately, this is a knock-on effect of our decision not to release not to stop jury trials during COVID. And that meant that there was a backlog, and we had to deal with that, Labour having to deal with that. It's the way you deal with it. They have chosen to release violent and sexual offenders. We never did that. We never would do that. What we do need to do is we need to make sure that prison works. We need to make sure there's rehabilitation. We need to make sure that the people who are dangerous are kept separate from the general public, and the people who can turn their lives around, turn their lives around.
A couple of things to talk to you about. Today, Robert Jenrick from Reform, ex-colleague of yours, will make a major speech saying that Reform would not only ban foreigners from claiming benefits in a bid to save 50 billion, but that actually they take a close look at all benefit claimants to get rid of this ridiculous system whereby you can claim benefits now for 6 months for anxiety simply by ticking a box on a form or making a call without having to speak to anybody. They say that there are also situations where benefit claimants will be made to not have cash, but have, if they have mental illness, therapies, whatever those therapies are, mental therapies, physical therapies. I mean, I watched Starmer try and save 5 billion. Reform are saying they'd save 50 billion. I think your party said they'd save 23 billion. Either way, something has to be done, doesn't it, James?
Well, we have a plan, an actual plan, not just some headlines like Reform, an actual plan to save £23 billion from the welfare budget, including reintroducing the two-child benefit cap, something that Reform MPs voted against. Well, most of them did. Rob Jenrick didn't seem to know what his party position was on this. And this is an important point, because making tough-sounding headlines is all well and good, but when actually given the opportunity to vote to tighten our benefit system, Reform MPs failed to do so. They are all over the place on this, which is why, frankly, I'm not taking these claims of savings from them with any kind of seriousness whatsoever. It really is only the Conservative Party that is decided and united on reducing the welfare bill and actually has a plan to do so, and has actually got a record in the House of Commons behind me of voting to put that in place. And you need all those things, and we're the only party that have got all those things in place.
One of the big stories over the weekend, and whilst I was away, James, and you tweeted about this, this Jason Arday story, the Cambridge professor who sadly died at the age of 41. So much has been said. Today, the head of a Cambridge college has called for an investigation into the media onslaught. Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College in Cambridge, said that Arday had been subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt before his death on Friday. And I opened the show earlier by saying I've been in the eye of that storm. Everybody would know that. And I have this to say. I think to blame the press that easily misses the point. It's a tragic story, but for me, this story is about the failings of people around him, the judgment of faces, people heading institutions, trying to score points and basically building him up. And you wrote a tweet that I think sums it up, and I'm going to read it. James cleverly tweeted, "The death of Jason Arday is tragic and makes me so angry. Even the most casual observer could see he was a vulnerable fantasist. A number of people at a number of academic institutions have serious questions to answer. They put him into positions he was clearly not qualified for so they could have a black wonderkind to show off. They pushed him into the spotlight for their own benefit. His exposure was inevitable in a case of when, not if. His whole world fell apart." You feel very strongly on this, James Cleverly?
I do, and I know that Jason Arday has come under a fair amount of personal criticism, and I can understand that, and it was clear that he was dishonest, and we don't know the full extent of the details, but we know a number of high-profile examples where he was dishonest, and that didn't really take much investigating to find out. And the universities, who have got a reputation for scrutiny and for being robust, they didn't do those things in his case. And I can't help but feel they were a little bit too gleeful in claiming credit for having the youngest black professor. So they teed him up. They put him right into the spotlight, surely knowing that there were question marks over at least some of his background.
And if I can jump in, and I think that is the point. And actually, I thought it was Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph nailed it earlier when she said, James, can you remember in history Cambridge or any university doing a press release about the employment or the start of a new professor? He was their poster boy, and that's why the tragedy that when I hear people say, oh, the British press, the right-wing press have had a go. Well, they've exposed the issues that were there, but you would have to assume, because we haven't heard from anybody at Cambridge saying, yes, we did realise these and perhaps we shouldn't have put him in this place. And I think that's the worst thing. I mean, I feel so sorry for him and his family, but the whole thing is crazy to point a finger at the press, isn't it?
Well, they made his race part of their story. They were the ones claiming with such pride that they had the youngest black professor. If they were really proud of his talent and his work, irrespective of his race, they would have focused on that. But they pushed him into the spotlight, I think, unfairly and for their own benefit rather than his. As you say, he leaves behind a family. We don't know the full circumstances of his death, and I'm not going to speculate. But the simple fact is that people whose job it was to check on the academic qualifications of the people that they employ seemed in this case to fail to do so in the most spectacular and tragic way, and I think that really is unacceptable, and that is why this is a public interest story. And of course all of us should have huge sympathy for the people who loved him and have been left behind.
I completely agree. I completely agree, James.
In fact, asking challenging questions.
Sarah Vine finished who I adore, said, Jason Arday's death is a tragedy that should force everyone to pause for reflection. Starting, she says, with those who thrust him into the spotlight for their own ends. Before we let you go, my friend, front page of the Eye today, I see our Ange is back as Housing Secretary. Thousands of new homes set to be... This is your brief. So, thousands of new homes set to be built as Rayner tears up rules on Greenbelt. New housing developments near train stations are set to be fast-tracked in a major expansion of commuter villages and towns. Communities with at least 4 services per hour into major urban areas are to be targeted for urgent development. What do you make of that?
Well, the fact is, Labour have been asleep at the wheel. They claimed they were going to help build 1.5 million houses in this Parliament. House building has collapsed because they have increased the tax on employment, they've increased the cost of energy, they've increased the taxes on businesses, and basically riding roughshod over local decision-making, stripping local authorities of their planning powers and hoarding it here in Westminster is not going to solve the error, the problem that they've created. The simple fact is they talk a good fight on housing, but their time in government has been catastrophic. And we have seen house building numbers absolutely collapse, particularly in London and the South East, where building costs are more expensive. And they cannot disguise that fact by a few headline-grabbing announcements like this. They have failed, and it's only the Conservatives that will reduce the tax and the bureaucracy to actually get stuff built where it's needed in towns and cities, near work, near employment, near transport hubs.
The other thing, just to finish, is that I've never understood about the whole housing debate. I mean, I understand about, you know, all politicians will say, yes, we should build more houses, and then when it comes to their own constituency, most go, no, no, no. But we surely have enough disused, I don't know, aerodromes, petrol stations. There must be land on which we can build these houses, and yet we seem to have, James, this argument, not you and I, just nationally the whole time. You know, we need more houses. There's an argument to say that maybe we shouldn't give away so many houses to illegal migrants, isn't there?
Well, one of the problems that we've got is using brownfield sites has become more expensive than greenfield sites. We should make it, and I intend to make it much quicker, much cheaper and much easier to build on former industrial sites, taking old buildings and bringing them back into use. And you talk about hypocrisy. Actually, one of the ministers that was in the planning department, she's now the energy secretary, Miata Falabula, she opposed the building of new homes on the old Aylesbury shopping centre in Peckham. Anyone that knows that knows it is a mid-20th century eyesore that's fallen into disrepair. She was at the forefront, she was in the housing department, she was at the forefront of opposing new homes in Peckham on an old shopping centre. Now, if Labour can't even get projects like that across the line, what hope have we got to actually get new houses built here in the UK?
James, really good to have you on, my friend. Thank you. I know you're a busy man. We love having you on the show. So, James, cleverly Shadow Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Thank you. 7:20, live across the UK. JK on Breakfast. We're back. At least some common sense, or even last. Stop all foreign nationals from taking benefits from the British, says Kay. There you go. Rogers in Wales. Not Christian's dad. He says, well, as a stringent reform supporter, this new policy for single scrapping of PIP is a stupid one. My family member has been given death date, struggles to go from one side of the room to the other and is on 24 hours oxygen. So far with this policy, they've turned my vote to a no. That's interesting, Rog. I think you'll find that Richard Tice said earlier, but how do you look at certain cases? I mean, that's going to be a concern for a lot of people. Morning, Jez and Poppy. We were at the Apollo Theatre on Friday night, and throughout the performance, all you could hear was alarm after alarm going off. The actors must have absolutely hated it. The tube home wasn't much better with alarm after alarm. I'm so glad I turned mine off in my settings about a year ago, says Trev in Harrow. But, Trev, what would happen if we were under nuclear attack? You wouldn't get the warning, would you? No. Joanna from Salisbury, hello, darling. Hi, Jez, great to have you back. Ian was good, but there's nothing like the real thing. Oh, no, don't... I don't know where he is, probably at my wife's house. My wife's house is my house as well, I'd like to point out. The country's gone to pot. Louise Haig signed off on the alarm and nearly had an RTA. Phone in the boot, cars all around me with alarms going. I stamped on the brakes and the car behind me was looking at his phone, nearly hit me. With 6 children, you need extra shifts. They're increasing our water bills in the summer. Brilliant. Gary's in Northampton. Morning, Gaz. I was at a shopping mall yesterday and there were loads of disabled spaces taken up by perfectly able people. God, I hate that. He said a lady who had a visibly disabled teenage daughter had to park in a normal space. She struggled to get the girl out of the car and into her chair because she couldn't park in a space that she'd have access to. Benefits cheats should be ashamed. Carl says, morning, Jess, great to have you back. I don't understand these people who don't want to work. For me, work is my home from home. Home is my home from work, and then there's fishing, my home from all problems. There you go, it's lovely. But it's true, work's supposed to galvanise you, isn't it? I work nights, says Russ. Lucky you, I can't read properly. I suffer with anxiety sometimes, and I'm nervous all the time, but my workmates and managers are always there for me. So if I can do it, so can you. Go get a job. You are the man of the morning, Russ, and he's absolutely right. There are people who will not do anything because it's easier not to do it. And the minute you have this discussion, Reform are going to have it this morning, people will go, oh, my God, what about the genuine people? Oh, Rob's been absolute... OK. Reform's by-election, he called it daft, gave Burnham space he didn't deserve, but I think he is like Starmer, stuck to the Labour playbook of much nothingness. This bloke is going to make this country tilt left more than ever has. He believes in the opposite of everything the people who watch this show believe in. He doesn't think immigration is a problem. That is extraordinarily dangerous. Dangerous? That's a new word. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Jessa. Brian here. Did you know that we now offer a universal basic wage to anyone that turns up? Over the weekend, I've been reading translated Facebook posts that are in Arabic, and what they do is they teach other people in Arabic how to claim welfare here, how to get more and more money out of us, and they don't actually think of it as welfare. They call it a salary. So there's people that are getting here on massive dinghies or robber dinghies, and they are working out how to get more and more free money, mate. Lovely. Cheers.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case, Nigel. And they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 7:25. It's Monday morning. What is it? The 17th of August, you lucky people. And we're back with the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. You know that emergency alert on Friday? I want to know where you were when it went off. One man was in the middle of oi oi, and he said it completely ruined the moment. This is true. Christian, I mean, you know, the executive producer of the show, and a man who is so talented, said he thought he'd left the fridge open. I thought he said French door, but he said fridge door. Lots of people saying they were on tubes and buses. Were you doing anything you should... No, I don't know why I've said that. Just where were you when the alarm went off? 0344 419 1000. Text us 87222, unless you were doing something wrong. Sean, good morning. Hello. John.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. I had last week off work. Weather was beautiful. And guess what, mate? I had a barbecue in my garden. I don't need no government warning from Andy Burnham telling me that I'm not allowed to have a barbecue because of fires. My back garden is completely concrete. I'm not stupid. I'm not a moron. I'm not going to light it near any grass. You know, what they should be doing is, Jeremy, is sending us a government warning about all these rapists coming over the channel. Maybe use it for that, mate. Great show, mate.
Might be a good idea, as Dave says. If we were under nuclear attack, what the bloody hell good would alert be? How are you going to avoid the... I can't say apocalypse, but go, oh, they're back, that's it, done. Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting subject, though, isn't it? Because are the government being, you know, helpful? Or is it just more example of the nanny state? At what point do you need to be... Sorry. Gaz, Jez, the alarm going off caused me so much crap. As it went off on my secret phone, my wife found it, divorce coming, says Gaz. I know a story like that, but I daren't tell you it on the show because I could probably end up being fired again. 0344 419 1000. 2 weeks of running around after children, trying to look interested as somebody in a rather tight swimsuit comes up to you at Centre Parks and goes, "You're Jeremy Kyle, aren't you?" Go away, swim backwards, don't come near me, please, don't. Means that I've missed the company of my next guest. I love her. She's been working brilliantly and has a massive new show coming out in a sec. We'll tell you about that. Isabel Oakeshott, good morning.
Good morning. Can we just reel back a minute there? You were at Centre Parks. Are you serious?
Mate, listen.
End of days. Absolutely end of days. How old are you? What are you doing at Centre Park?
61, trying to go down the rapids with teenagers. Like, I felt like I'd gone 12 rounds with Mike Tyson, then they had to shut it because somebody had pooed in it. I'm not lying to you.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you at all. But you know, and I banned my grandchildren from saying granddad. I gave them 20 quid. They just called me Jez because that, you know, how do you explain that your grandchildren are all the youngest children? The whole thing's like the Jeremy Kyle show. Anyway, I did my bit. I did my bit. But lots of people kept swinging up to me going, hello. Seriously, swim backwards. Don't come near me. I'm having a bad day.
I love this.
Where were you? I'm so desperate for a fruity answer, but I'm not going to get one, am I? Where were you when the alarm went off, Oakeshott?
I was just tidying the house. And the thing was, it was a kind of PTSD moment because the tone, it was identical to the alert that goes off in the United Arab Emirates when there's actual incoming missiles. It was completely the same thing. So I could hear it going off and I was like, oh my God, has my phone somehow gone on to like Dubai setting? Have I been transported back into an actual war zone where we really might have to go and shelter because Iran is lobbing munitions around? And then I looked at the phone and I was like, don't use barbecues. It was just a bit of a kind of anticlimax.
I just like, are people just it's common sense, but I come from down on the coast and there's wildfires across the New Forest, so maybe we're wrong. So much to talk about. Let's start with reform. Your husband-to-be was on the show an hour and a half ago talking about Robert Jenrick's making a major speech this morning, 11 o'clock. And finally, I mean, yes, the Tories are talking about cutting 23 billion. Labour couldn't even cut 5. But the reformers saying we will save 50 billion, not just by banning foreigners, Isabel, but actually by saying that all welfare benefits payments will be looked into. It would have to be face-to-face, and many people, instead of cash, would be offered physical therapies or stuff that isn't cash but is what they need for the problems they've got. I absolutely support this, and I'll go further. This is exactly what I want from reform, them on the front foot, leading the way policy-wise.
Yes, I mean, I think most of our listeners and viewers will agree with this, and we always say it, but of course this policy, whether it's from Reform or anyone else who sensibly wants to cut benefits, isn't about taking money away from people who really, really need it. I know there was somebody that called in on a different show to Leila Cunningham, Reform's mayoral candidate, and she was almost in tears talking about her terrible situation. I think she's a carer for someone who is dying of cancer. Of course, Reform's not talking about taking money away from people at end of life or have very, very serious conditions. But I think everybody knows that there's a huge amount of abuse of the system. Yeah. And that's what this is about.
And I mean, we had a call, a text, and Richard answered it. This guy said, I was an alarm clock Brit, and then I got Parkinson's. The truth of the matter is, for me, the answer's in how you deliver the message. Since COVID, and in fact before COVID, it is patently obvious that people take advantage of a system now where you can just tick a box, you don't have to be seen by anybody, and you can say, oh, I've got anxiety, and you get 6 months' money. The genuine people, even if they have to be interviewed, whatever the situation, they're going to obviously have the right claim. And what I want to go further even that you said is all the people that are screwing the system are taking money away from the genuinely needy who miss out. And that's a really important point. So, God, listen, I think it would be amazing. I asked this also of Richard. It would be fair to say that Reform's taken a bit of a battering recently. I think Nigel's by-election victory, I mean, the Parliamentary Standards investigation returns, 5 million. And I asked your husband-to-be reports over the weekend that Nigel Farage has fallen out of love with Zia Youssef.
Well, I think there's always nonsense about strong personalities, isn't there? And it makes good copy. And I think that it's not a coincidence that that kind of briefing is coming out of people that are desperate for some sort of pact between Reform and the Tories, and know that Zia Youssef has pretty much said, I think he actually said yesterday, I would rather die than be part of any such pact. So he is seen as an obstacle by those who want some kind of deal between the two parties. Jezza, you've been off for a couple of weeks, but people are still banging on about deals between the Tories and Reform. And just listening to James Cleverly this morning was just a reminder to me of why we just don't want that. You know, he was just so dismissive of serious policy proposals that are coming out from Robert Jenrick, his former colleague, this morning, saying it's just about trying to distract from the 5 million. That is not an adult way to respond to a policy agenda. The Tories are always saying Reform's not serious. Then Reform spends months looking at something like this, and all the Tories can say is, oh, you're just trying to distract from the 5 million. That's pathetic, frankly. It really is. They could do a lot better than that. Let's not forget, they are a large part of the reason why we are where we are, where we have something like 860,000 children who are supposedly in need of disability living allowance. This is an absolute racket. Of course, there are a small number of severely disabled children who absolutely need and deserve that help. But we are in a ridiculous situation where parents are now over pathologizing their children in order to claim perks and benefits. And it's completely draining the nation, isn't it? You know, the welfare
it is, and I, one of the things that I feel, and you know, I get accused of, like you do, about reform. I try and look at all sides. I had James Cleverly on. I take your point. There comes a point where if you simply say, oh, reform's just made up on the back of a cigarette packet and there's no substance to it and whatever, you're laughing at 15 million people in this country. Let me read you this, Sue from North Yorkshire. While we've been on our morning jazz, only the Conservatives say they will deliver, but in reality do the opposite. I'm sick of the likes of James Cleverly misquoting reform policy when he knows damn well that reform is to reintroduce the two-child cap benefit and have costed their proposal cuts to welfare, unlike the Conservatives. The current welfare bill is unaffordable, and they're talking about doing something about it and have a plan. And I think the point is, for me, it doesn't matter what party. It needs politicians who understand the two most important things in people's lives right now, three, but I'll say two, is the immigration issue, and without any shadow, I mean, taxation, energy, boats, it's so obvious to me, and I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'd never be good at politics. You need to concentrate on telling people the answers, don't you? Really? Can I ask you about the other story over the weekend, Sweet, which I'm quite strong on? Jason Arday, the youngest black professor at Cambridge, sadly died on Friday. No details as yet, for obvious reasons, 41. Today, the head of a Cambridge college has come out and called for an investigation into the media onslaught. Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College in Cambridge, said that Arday had been subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt before his death on Friday. I perhaps look at this differently. I think the story is really tragic. You're a mother, I'm a father. But as good as it is to have a go at the right-wing media, what about the people who knew about his failings at the top of institutions, who accepted his claims, built him up, put him out there, released a press release about him being and knew that the spotlight would be on him? Are they not responsible as well, Isabel Oakeshott?
Well, ultimately, I haven't commented on this because it's just all so horrible and awful. But as somebody who has family that is affected by suicide, I would like to be very clear that nobody is ever responsible for someone else's terrible decision to take their own life. Suicide is the most horrendous thing that anyone can do to themselves, obviously, but to their family. It is an utterly, utterly tragic and selfish thing to do. You know, I know people that have been heavily affected by suicide, and of course there is then a blame game, but ultimately it's not anyone else's fault. It is on the person that took that decision. And bluntly, Jason Arday was a fraud. He had made things up to get to the position that he was in, massively embellishing his credentials, and made a whole career out of that. And then it all came tumbling down, and he wasn't tough enough to ride it out. And I'm very sorry about it. I've also been in the eye, like you, of the most horrific social media pylons, and it's dire. But you've just got to try to, you know, get your head down, think about something else. It will pass eventually. It does pass. The circus moves on. I'm not trying to teach lessons to anyone going through awful times. People have different ways of dealing with it, but ultimately killing yourself is never a solution. And it doesn't then become the fault of the people that have criticised you. That is on him, I'm afraid. It is an awful, awful thing, but the media are not to blame. And there's no point in having an inquiry into the media. We've been here before, haven't we, with Caroline Flack and other people. It's not going to change how modern media works.
The problem for me is, and I feel like here's
the thing. No amount of media inquiries into how the media behaves is going to change the fact that the media will continue to hold people accountable. People in high-profile public positions who lie are going to be exposed. Or
somebody once said to me, if you can't handle what's coming your way, when I was doing my show, give up your big salary and go back to a 9 to 5. I want to qualify something, though. There have been examples in the past, obviously, of press that are not palatable, but nobody... Of course, you've got Jason Arday to be in that tragic a position. Absolutely dreadful. Can't imagine that, but do think about the family and think about the choice, right? But as easy as it is to go, the media... The reason, with the greatest of respect, that this became public interest is, and Poppy Coburn nailed this earlier, when does Cambridge University release a press release about making somebody a new professor? He was their poster boy. They put him out there. And those faceless people at the top of those institutions who believed his claims and built him up and put him into a position that he patently wasn't qualified to do, and let's be honest with that, they want to look in the mirror big time, Isabel, don't they? Massively.
Well, absolutely they do, and they should, look to their processes and what went wrong in this case and how their critical judgment, which is what they recruit their students for, was suspended in the case of this person because of this person's demographic and what they felt this person could do for the university's reputation. It has been an absolutely spectacular disaster on a human level, and also in terms of the university's global reputation. The story has travelled far and wide, but now it's a human tragedy. But it isn't the media's fault. It's not Cambridge's fault that he killed himself. It's his fault. He took that decision. He had any number of other options available, and I'll say it again: suicide is a horrific thing to do. People who take their own lives are obviously not in their right minds, but it is an awful thing to do. It is not anyone else's fault.
Just finish very quickly. Are we allowed to say anything about your secret project or not yet?
Well, what we can say is that for the best part of a year, I, working with Christian Drogan, who was some people may remember, the undercover migrant who exposed the shocking scale of violence and lawlessness in the migrant camps in Calais and Dunkirk. We have been working on a secret mission. It has been incredibly difficult, very, very dangerous, and time and again we failed in our mission. We kept going, he kept risking his own life for this piece of journalism. And I am so excited to say that I think you must just have been heading off on holiday when we finally achieved what we'd always set out to do. So we're going to be bringing you that story in a week or so. I think we're filming this week with Christian. We've got lots of undercover footage, secret recordings. It is a jaw dropper. I am super, super excited. But actually, one of the things about it taking so long to achieve is how much intelligence we gathered along the way. So in a funny sort of way, I'm quite glad that it wasn't anywhere near as easy as we naively thought it would be when we started off on this.
It's going to be, peeps. We can't give away too much. Do you want to tell them? No, you don't. Honestly, just wait for this. Nobody else has done this. An amazing piece of work by the brilliant Isabel and Christian as well. So we'll look forward to that, sweetheart. Thank you so, so much. And hope the alarm doesn't go off today. Although you should like this before you go, Isabel. Lee from Leeds says, I think Louise Haigh is actually the reason she was, in fact, the person who called it. Maybe she misplaced her phone again and used the emergency alert on her other one to try and find it. And that set them off across the country.
I love it.
Thank you, Isabel Oakeshott. Love you loads. What is it, 70 minutes to 8? This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:45. You're waking up to the news that Reform UK plan, if they are elected, to cut 50 billion off the welfare benefits bill, which will be a sizable amount of money. There's a press conference at 11 this morning with Robert Jenrick and Danny Kruger, the man who is preparing reform for government. Wiltshire MP will be on in just a tick. Let's say a very good morning, though, to former Labour special. This man's not on this station more than I am. Paul Richards, good morning.
Good morning and welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. You look rather well, old boy. How are you doing?
Just English sunshine down at the coast. Very nice. I'm doing very well.
You look like you're off to court, as a comment. Now, Paul, good man.
What, as the defendant or the prosecutor?
We haven't got much time, bless you. You know what it's like. Reform today, back on the front foot, I guess, moving away from the £5 million standards investigation and reports over the weekend that Farage and Youssef have fallen out. They, with Robert Jenrick at 11, saying that they would save 50 billion, not only by banning foreigners from claiming benefits, Paul, but by saying to everybody on benefits, yes, we want to help the genuine, but this system is being taken advantage of. Nobody gets seen face to face. You can phone up and say I'm anxious and get 6 months off. I have to say, swapping cash for benefits that improve your condition, that makes absolute sense, doesn't it?
Well, they are right to identify, I think, there is a problem with the welfare system because, as we know, it's costing far more than it should and not enough people are working. And there are some people, as you say, scamming it and gaming it, as we know. But I'm going to look at the detail of this. I'm going to take it seriously as a policy. But my fear instantly would be that if you take people out of the system, you create more crime, you create more antisocial behaviour, you create those tent cities that we've seen coming up in the city centres, more people mugging, shoplifting, begging. Because the welfare system is there to stop all of those things happening in the system. So if you just say to a sort of blanket ban on foreigners, you're going to see the impact on the streets, but also it will end up costing more money as well.
Can I jump in for a sec, though?
Of course, yeah.
The thing that worries me about that is, and we have good conversations, you're saying that if we don't give benefits to people, even, hear me out, if they're not basically prepared or they should have them, that could create more crime. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's like saying, well, we're just going to pay people who do not deserve it. This is my point, and I want to keep making the point. I have no problem paying any tax to help people who can't help themselves, but it doesn't matter what political side you're on. We have to admit it isn't just a few hundred. There are thousands, I suspect hundreds of thousands of people gaming the system. I mean, I'm old enough, as I said before, we went to work or college. It's a career choice, I'm afraid, Paul, and that's not palatable to a lot on the left and many on the right, I suspect, but it needs attacking with the message that the genuine won't miss out. Because what I never hear as a politician say, the Labour backbenchers, you can't cut 5 billion. What about the people in poverty? What about the genuine people who are missing out because people are taking money out of the main pot, Paul? That's my issue.
And that's the right issue, because nobody wants people stealing money out of the welfare system that should be going to the more deserving people that need it. And that is just basically theft. But whether this policy would address that in the way that Reform are suggesting is what I'm suggesting. It will have the opposite effect. The answer is to get people into work, and there needs to be far more done to help people into jobs, because that gives not only dignity but also money, of course. And we need to tackle some of the other issues as well, like speeding up asylum claims and not having people hanging around in camps and all of those things. I would, by the way, asylum seekers, I would give them the right to work too, and I'd put them in high-vis jackets and I'd have them out cleaning up canals and roadsides and litter and graffiti off the streets, and you know, in return for the support that they get too. So, you know, work has to be the answer to all of this. Isabel Oakeshott earlier said it's not very adult just to suggest this is just a distraction tactic from the inquiry. but I am an adult, and I think there is partly some truth in the fact that it is a distraction tactic as well. They're trying to dominate the media grid over August.
I would say,
but
I would
you know,
say
that
to
is not going to go away, is it? That's not. You've mentioned it yourself, Jeremy.
No,
it's not going away.
It's not going to go away, and it tells you something that both the main leaders of political parties said, and I quote, "We'll field a candidate in Clacton when the next by-election takes place," which tells me that the establishment has already decided that Nigel Farage is guilty. Now, whether he is or not, that's not for me to judge. And whether you agree with that by-election, I didn't. I was very, very honest. But what I want from all politicians, I want them to be on the front foot, like Chris Philp was, I said this the other day, over there in Normandy, on the beach, telling me on this show and my listeners what was going on. I want my politicians on the front foot, talking about policies and ways they're going to make this country better. Paul, don't think me rude, mate. Got to move. You're a good man. We'll get you on again. 10 to 8. We're live across the UK. Let's get a Reform view on this. Reform MP for East Wiltshire, Danny Kruger. Morning, Danny. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you. Very well.
You're looking down. All I can see is the top of your head. There you are. Good morning.
Well, I don't know where your camera is. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm in a little room. Yeah, I'm fine.
Good man. Let's start with Robert Jenrick's announcement this morning, 11 o'clock. You heard Paul Richards there. We've had some texts about people worrying, but actually a lot of people saying this is great. We know that the benefits bill now outstrips the amount of tax the Exchequer gets, which is a frightening figure, I think, for anybody, Danny. What do you say to the people who will say this is all well and good, but there will be genuine people on benefits who are going to be let down if this becomes policy? What's your answer to that, Danny?
Well, that's what we need to avoid. Clearly, there are very many people who need the support of the welfare system, the people it was designed for, the long-term sick, the people who are physically unable to work, the people with conditions that limit their lives and that need help. And we want to ensure that they get it. And we're going to simplify the assessment system. We're going to reduce the number of hoops that those people with severe conditions need to jump through. We're going to guarantee their support. But there are many more people, I'm afraid, or other people for whom the welfare system has become a trap. Either because they're frankly scammers, and we know that that exists. Let's not be naive about the abuse of the welfare system we have. But there are people who want to work, who know that it would be best for them, but they look at the incentives in the system and they say, I've got to stay on welfare. It's the only way to get the income that I need. So we need to change the system. We need to ensure that there are good, well-paid jobs for people, and we need to ensure that there is the support in place for those who can work, who should be working. And we're going to have the carrot of additional support, and we're announcing plans for that today. But we're also going to have the stick that we're going to require people to be reassessed for their benefits. And unless you have a serious life-limiting condition, you will probably have a reduction in the cash entitlement that you get. But what we will put in place, if you need it, is support organised through your local council to help you with the challenges of a disability or a health condition, to ensure that you can continue to live independently and work if you can.
And Danny, the genius in my mind about that, this, claimants would have to swap cash for benefits help, basically, for real help, is, of course, that to me answers one of the main issues for the people who say, the genuine are going to really suffer under reform are going to cut everything. No. If you are genuinely disabled, if you have genuine mental illness, if you are not a scammer, let's just be honest, there are, in your face-to-face interview, that will become patently obvious. As will, in fact, your need for therapy or for a counselling session or whatever, which would replace cash. But there's no doubt, I think, that we've reached a point where this entire country, millions and millions of hard-working Brits are saying, hold on a minute, this was for people who can't help themselves, and now it's helping people who don't want to help themselves, and that's really, really taking the what's it out of the hard-working silent majority, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. We're spending £100 billion a year just on health and disability benefits, not on universal credit, on income support, not on child maintenance, childcare, all the rest of the benefits that we get, not pensions, just health and disability benefits. £100 billion a year. That's over £3,000 per average family being spent on the health and disability benefits for other people. As I say, many of those people need the help they get. They probably need more help than they're getting, and that's what we want to ensure that they receive. But many millions of people shouldn't be getting benefits at all. They should be working. They should be supporting their families and paying taxes. It's best for them, and it's best for the taxpayer. And as you say, the way to ensure that you distinguish between those two categories, and it's very difficult to make that distinction sitting here in London, we're going to ensure that people have proper, comprehensive, face-to-face assessments, combining all these different hoops that people currently have to jump through, very distressing and confusing. A single assessment with clinicians to determine, what does this person need? Do they need income replacement, i.e. cash support because they can't work? Do they need practical, direct help to ensure that they can live independently and go to work? And what are the precise amounts that they need for those different elements of support? A more human system, a more personal one, and a more truthful one will be fairer for taxpayers and fairer for claimants.
Couldn't agree more. Now, I didn't know I was going to ask you this, but I've had so many messages over the weeks about this, and I've got you on. So many Reform voters cannot believe that more is not being made of by anybody. I mean, this... David Lammy started this, covering up the migrant crime figures, when we know that this is an absolute hotbed of what is wrong with the migrant system. Is that something Reform are going to fight to get released? Because there are millions and millions of people, Danny, who really cannot believe that this is being hidden, the truth as to what's really happening to this country with people coming in here illegally.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we have had 25 years of political correctness that states that it's inappropriate to identify criminals and offenders in terms of their nationality or their immigration status. That is so wrong on every level. Crucially, it's wrong in terms of how we're going to prevent and reduce crime, but it's also wrong just in terms of honesty with the public. We need to be clear with people. So, yes, if Reform wins the election, we will make immediate publication of the statistics that identify the immigration status, the nationality of different different criminal groups. And you're absolutely right. The public are outraged about this because they see plainly in their own lives, in their own communities, what mass migration has done. And let me emphasise, many migrants, long-term ones as well as recent arrivals, are decent law-abiding people who want to do the right thing. But the fact is there is an overwhelmingly disproportionate number of criminals among particularly illegal immigrants, but I'm afraid to say legal ones as well. And we saw in the disgraceful cover-up of the rape gangs across England that we have a problem here, and it has been concealed by decades of timid and politically correct public servants and politicians. Reform will end all of that.
And I think it's a bit like the welfare benefits bill that talk that you're going to give this morning, and the same as this. I've got to finish, but people need to hear that things will be done irrespective of certain parts of the media or the left jumping up and down, because we've reached a crisis point. Danny Kruger, listen, mate, it's great to have you on. We really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. Reform and Peace for East Wiltshire, getting ready for government. Danny Kruger, thank you very much indeed. Almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Loads going on the next hour. We're kicking off with Benedict Spence. He's back from the estate in Norfolk. Go 344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Gary says we're in the pub when the alarm went off. I can't even go there. 8 o'clock next with the news.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Secretary has brought forward a very rigorous plan in relation to this, and let's remember, of course, the numbers can fluctuate, but overall boat crossings are down quite significantly year on year, so that does suggest that the plan is working.
We've just witnessed drone footage of the French authorities handing out life jackets to illegal immigrants and then waving them goodbye as they head on their way towards the UK. So the French are actively helping and facilitating illegal immigration. In addition to that, the French forces did nothing to stop that huge migrant dinghy. In fact, the dinghy came out, then it went back to the beach to pick up even more illegal immigrants and then departed for a second time. During all of that, the French did nothing, and they even handed out life jackets and waved goodbye as these illegal immigrants head towards the UK. I think that's terrible. I mean that anyone who did cross the channel and arrive in Dover could be immediately deported within around about a week.
Wait about a second, he's just dragging a line by the look of it.
Is that a warning shot towards us? I don't know.
Well, I was trying to work out.
Okay. The French officers could clearly see we were conducting an interview on the back of the fishing boat. They sailed extremely close to us and started firing gunshots, 11 live rounds. We could see the bullets hitting the water behind our boat. They weren't firing before their approach. They weren't firing afterwards. There was no notification of any kind of training exercise. So it did seem to me to be an effort to intimidate us.
The thing that I find, and I should say alarm clock Brits find so frustrating, Chris, and this is why I wanted you on this morning. Yesterday, finally, the unelected Messiah of Manchester stood up and said to consummate fury from most of us that Labour's plan to stop dinghy migrants is working. This, Chris, despite the fact that 1,000 illegal migrants have still come into this country in the last 9 days since he became Prime Minister.
Je suis un député dans le Parlement du Royaume-Uni. Why have you allowed the migrants into the water? Why haven't you stopped them?
Our order is to let them go like that.
Your order is to let them go?
We just have to say to them, don't do that, it's dangerous.
So your orders are not to intervene?
We have to protect them.
Well, there's also protecting the border as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, or welcome along. Where have you been? Just gone 8 o'clock. Now, when we started at 6 o'clock this morning, I was just being honest, I come back from holiday. There's a heat wave in this bloody studio because, yet again, the air conditioning is not working and it's roasting. But I have breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Push the button for me. Have I got to break it? Where's the breaking news thing happening? Isn't it? Oh, there you go, breaking news. 2 men have arrived with a ladder. Yep, 2 men have arrived with a ladder, apparently to mend it. So by the time we get to 10 o'clock, I'll probably have icicles in the end of my nose. Anyway, there you go. Yeah, we might have to... Yeah, we might... they might be sending an emergency alert out. Jez's air conditioning's working. If you do get that, just ignore it. Turn your settings off. 0344 499 1000. Welcome to the show. Listen, what are you waking up to? You're waking up to the news of Robert Jenrick. Reform's choice for Chancellor if they get elected will today announce at an 11 o'clock press conference that Reform have plans to cut $50 billion off that extraordinarily large benefits bill. They'd previously said we will ban foreigners from claiming any sorts of benefits. They're now saying that every single person on benefits will be re-interviewed face-to-face. Hurrah! Scrutinised. Hurrah! By the way, don't panic. Not to upset the genuine. In fact, to save the money, to give you, the genuine people, the chance to have the money you need. But for all the people who are taking advantage, oh, imagine the left. People are taking... Yeah, they are. People are taking advantage. Weed them out. Fair play. The other plan is... to prove that, in fact, you have anxiety, we'll pay for you to go to a therapist. We'll pay for you to have some counselling. We're not going to give you cash. Mate, I think it's great. Phil, good morning.
Hello, Jezza. Phil in Nottingham here, matey. I don't understand the furore around Reform's announcement. What, foreign citizens can't claim British benefits? Surely anybody with half a brain cell would think that that's a given. Why would foreign citizens be able to claim British benefits? Since when would that be a thing?
Well, that's common sense, and of course you haven't got any. Well, politicians haven't. You've got lots to survive. But no, I get you, and I think I've said it before. Whenever you have this discussion about benefits, people will jump up and down and say, "Oh, what about the people who?" Yes, I get that. But also, if you're taking money from a system to give it to people who don't deserve it, you're ultimately taking money away from people who need it. The other big news story, and this hit when I was away, and I think it's so important. We all know by now the story of the Professor Jason Arday, the youngest ever black professor at Cambridge. Some of what he told in terms of to get the job started to unravel. The press got involved. His life... he died on Friday. We can't go into any more details. 41-year-old man. And I want to start by saying that, you know, is a tragic, tragic thing. But what's happened is the left have jumped up and down and decided that you should blame the media. That the media, the right-wing media, I suspect they would say, have basically torn into this man. Today, the head of a Cambridge college has called for an investigation into the media onslaught. Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College, Cambridge, said that Arday had been subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt before his death. I just want to say this, I say it all morning. Whilst it's obviously tragic, this is also a failing of people around him on the left who thought it was a good idea to make this guy some sort of... figurehead. They believed his claims. They released a press release saying Jason Arday is the youngest black professor. It was for their... I don't know, did it make them feel good, these faceless people? They built him up into a position he wasn't qualified to. Earlier on the review of the papers, Poppy Coburn, who I love, I thought summed it up absolutely brilliantly. Have a listen to this.
It seems like the left forget this every single time it's convenient for them. But suicide is not someone proving a point. It's not something that you can bring up as a kind of excuse then to turn around and attack your political enemies. It is a personal choice that someone's made, and to draw any lessons from it is very, very dangerous indeed, because what you're telling people is if they feel that they've been attacked by someone, they can go, look, told you so. Look, I'm doing this, and it's a kind of like almost spiteful thing. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do. That is not how we should talk about mental health in that way. And I think the way that the left has responded to the death of Jason Arday has been incredibly cynical and irresponsible. No one is responsible for this man's death. No one in the media is responsible for this man's death, OK? No one's done that, and it's very, very unfair to say that. Going into what Cambridge University has done, I think for them, they're now going to turn around and say, we've got no duty of care. It was totally fine that we put a press release out saying he was the youngest black professor in the United Kingdom. We were desperate for this person to be a public figure. Totally fine that we ignored the multiple concerns that were raised by academics for years, that he was a plagiarist, that he wasn't teaching students properly. Totally fine that an academic in their early career has missed out on an all-important job because he got that job even though he wasn't qualified for it. No, 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 it's all the nasty right-wing press. We can totally remove any responsibility that we had for hiring this man, for promoting him, as we did for years and years and years. We can just say it's a smear against him. You know that they're still not acknowledging, many of the Cambridge colleges, they're not even acknowledging that he was a plagiarist. They've now just completely dropped that. If you're an early career academic, what is your takeaway from this entire scandal? Seriously, what is your takeaway from this? It's that if you can turn it into a partisan political moment, you can just step back and ignore it. Doesn't matter. What does standards matter anymore in academia? We've all just admitted that academia isn't about actually learning anything. It's about making you feel good.
I thought she was utterly brilliant there. 8:10. What do you make of that story? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's say a very good morning. It says here, Conservative commentator. I'd say out of work landed gentry. Good morning, Benedict Spence.
At least you've got me down to a T.
Yes. Good. Where are you? In your own place?
I am actually in my own place, yes. It's unusual, but, you know, quiet weekend.
So let me ask you, I was at a quiet weekend for Baron Spence. Where were you when the alarm went off on Friday? We had a man on earlier who was in the middle of, well, entertaining his wife, and he said it affected everything. Where were you?
I was actually on a train. I was in a train, and because, of course, this is a train in the United Kingdom, the signal was so bad that everybody's phones were getting the alarms at different intervals. So for about a half-hour period, this thing was going off as different people came into contact with the signals on their network. So if there had been an imminent wildfire, it's entirely possible that you might have died because you didn't get it.
What do you make, though? I don't know, I wasn't here. What do you make of that? I mean, you know, there are people going, this is the government caring, and, you know, there's wildfires, and there's other people going, Jesus Christ, we don't need you to tell us about barbecue. Where do you stand on this?
I think that, well, there were always going to be some people who thought that this was a good idea, the sorts of people who during COVID had hysterical meltdowns about, you know, getting too close to them. But actually, I've been slightly relieved by the sheer number of people who I've come into contact with subsequently who have said this was a ridiculous overreaction and an abuse of the system. You know, I've actually had enough people, you know, just sort of a day, so to speak, over the last couple of days who have said, what on earth was that about? Is this really what it's for? I'm not an idiot. I don't need to be told that it's hot and that fire is dangerous. But there are a few people, as I say, for whom this will be taken as the government getting ahead of the issue, showing that it cares. And, you know, frankly, there's no reasoning with those kinds of people. Though I would say, ultimately, I think it'll probably prove to be a misstep by Burnham. I think enough people were probably irritated by that.
There's a great meme, is that what you call it? I got sent this morning. I can't put it on air, but there's a view of a cliff top, and there's a family, and they're just cooking sausages, and they've all been arrested by the police, and they've got their arms, and there's a police van, and then you look behind, and in the sea is just this sea of boats of migrants going, "We've arrived, give us a house." It just sort of sums it all up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A couple of things, dear boy. Nigel Farage's victory from Friday, people will have opinions. Today, it seems to me that Reform are trying to get back on the front foot after a few woes. Robert Jenrick, 11 o'clock, announcing not only that ban on foreigners from claiming benefits, but actually they're going further. And they're saying to anybody, Benedict, who's on really housing, pension credit, job seekers, child benefit, free childcare, disability benefits, we're not going to do this COVID nonsense where you can just tick a box. We're going to have to get you face-to-face to be reassessed. Those who are genuine will bend over backwards to help you, but we have to finally accept there are scammers. We have to finally accept that people are taking advantage. We have to encourage people or incentivise people to go back to work. We're also, which I think is genius, going to say to people, right, if you need physical therapy or mental therapy, we're not going to give you cash. We know what you do with it. We're going to provide that service. I think it's good, don't you?
I think that this is, as you say, an attempt to get back on the front foot, having really, I think, gone off the boil a little bit over the last couple of months. And I think also, you know, that even though there were justified complaints by some members in Reform about how they were being treated and the danger that was being posed to them, the problem is if you're constantly complaining about how other people are being mean to you or what kind of danger you're in, that doesn't project strength. And you have to say people do not vote for victims. I know that in parts of this country, in particular the left, love the idea of a victim, but you stick those people up at a general election against somebody who is proactive and dynamic, that person isn't going to win. So that was a bit of a mistake strategically that Reform made by deciding to go down that route. I think that there is, yes, as you say, a sensibleness in trying to get back out ahead, trying to get back on the front foot, and also in particularly going after the welfare bill and the migrant welfare bill. And, you know, these are two things that I think a lot of people understand are ballooning, are bloated and need to come down. What they have to get this right, though, is the tone. Ultimately, if it's seen as quite a desperate sort of thing, if it's not convincing, then I don't think it'll do much to arrest their momentum. What the problem Reform have is that they are waiting. They're waiting until Andy Burnham drops the ball massively on something. There have been sort of hints at it here or there, but they are very much, I think, actually playing catch-up. But it will turn around for them as and when Andy Burnham really messes up on something.
It's interesting when you say messing up. For me, I mean, I said it earlier, I've sort of watched from afar for 2 weeks. He's definitely better than politics and the optics of how it looks than Starmer. But then you asleep would have done a better job. But you have to scrape it down, and you have to find out what's inside. And in time, like him or don't like him, Andy Burnham is a left-wing socialist who believes that we should pay for things that we can't afford to pay, in which case your national debt, which is out of control, gets even bigger. And that, to me, is something that will ultimately happen. I think he's Keir Starmer in a different guise, but I don't, you know, it might be better as a speaker, but meat on the bone, not so sure. I'll tell you what I wanted to talk to you about. The not main story, but I'm really interested in this because you heard me just play Poppy Coburn's response. Jason Arday, the the first black professor at Cambridge, that was them releasing that information, sadly died on Friday. Today, the principal of Homerton College, Lord Woolley, says this was a horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt. People have said that it was racist, but, you know, I stick to what I think, which is this is very tragic. Nobody wants to do this. But as much as it's easy to jump at the press, what about the faceless people at the top of institutions who accepted his claims, built him up, promoted him and put him out there to be pulled apart because he had lied and it was proven he had lied? Are they not responsible morally as well?
Yeah, I heard what Poppy Coburn said, and, you know, she was outraged on behalf of a lot of people sort of further down in academia, saying what kind of a message does this send, that academia is actually secondary to how you feel. Yeah, that is what academia is. And, you know, I think people in this country haven't quite realized this yet, that academia has stopped being, especially in the humanities, it has stopped being about producing results. It is now about making money, and money is based on how you make people feel. You're trying to sell a product to people. And actually, I'm afraid to say also, plagiarism, as you were talking about, as Mr. Arday had been proven to be, it is rife. It is rife all across academia. Huge amounts of stuff is junk. It's garbage. It is made up increasingly. A huge amount of it is coming from the use of AI as well. People, I think, when this becomes common knowledge, when this all sort of comes out, the scale to which our higher academic sector has been co-opted as simply a form of raising revenue for universities to keep the system going, people are, I think, going to be pretty horrified.
But I mean, is that not the point? For Lord Woolley and others at Cambridge to say it was a right-wing media onslaught, it was racist, this bloke was a shining example. Is not the truth that if those people who employed him, I repeat, the faceless people at the top of institutions who accepted his claims and built him up and put him into a position that he patently wasn't qualified to do, it would be very fair to say that that was why the man was scrutinised by the press, because they blew smoke and made a big thing about it in the first place.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I'll say two things very quickly on this. The first is when we had the announcement the other day about record numbers of students had been offered places at university, I was exasperated, because that's record numbers of people who are going to be put into huge amounts of debt, most of which they will never escape, to be taught by people like Jason Arday. That's the key thing here. If this is happening at Cambridge, it is happening everywhere else. It is happening at all of those other universities that are frankly not as good. It will absolutely be happening there. And on the subject of all those people saying that this is a right-wing witch hunt and it's racist, well, of course it's racist. They made it racist when they decided to promote this man almost entirely based on his race. Of course it's going to be. You can't turn around and go, oh, it's the mean right-wing people making this about race. They were the ones that made this about race when they elevated him to this position because he ticked certain kinds of boxes, because he was a perfect candidate to sell their story, to sell the story, to promote to people, to get them through the door, to take on the loans, to get themselves into debt, to fund the whole charade. That's what this is about at the end of the day. And, you know, as you say, there needs to be a lot of introspection there about, from universities themselves, what it is that they're prepared to put up with, what fantasies they're prepared to peddle in order to keep the whole show on the road. And I'll say this again, if this is happening at Cambridge, it will be happening everywhere else. It will be going on.
Final thing for you today, BS.
On the subject of plagiarists.
Thank you, Front page of The Sun. This infuriates my listeners. Honestly, Henry Novak's killer will be... victims will be allowed prison-to-prison video chats with his jailbird mum. Henry's grieving mum, however, cannot speak to her son again. This piece of... that murdered Henry Novak by playing the race card, who was then found to have lied, and whilst this poor young boy was lying, fighting for his life, and coppers, he was going, I'm stabbed, I'm stabbed again. I don't think so, son. This guy was pretending he'd been here. He gets 20 years. I never realised this till this morning. His vile, and I'm allowed to say that, mother, who hid the knife, has only got 3 years, and yet they're allowed to speak by video. This is outrageous, isn't it? Again.
I just think it's one of those things that if they would stop and think about this for 2 seconds, what are they doing letting two convicted criminals communicate with each other?
Yeah.
I don't care if they're related. You know, many crime families, by definition, are related. Many mafioso are related to each other. Are they allowed to have video calls as well? Are they allowed to sort of convene and talk business and talk shop? I think that that's just for on all sorts of levels. Even if there wasn't the cruelty about the Novak family not being able to talk to their son again, on a practical level, what on earth are you doing letting two criminals have a chat over the phone? That's nuts.
And I never understand. You've just said something that really resonated with me. I never understand how politicians don't think that there will be complete outrage over that. There was enough outrage, probably not enough actually, when Henry Novak's life was ended so prematurely. But you're actually saying to those people, don't worry, we'll look after you. Before you go, I noticed your hair is looking slightly darker. Have you dyed it?
No, I've not dyed it. It's just a little dark in this room today.
Do you think that I look whiter-haired? Do you think the sun... And people are taking the mickey this morning and saying I'm beginning to look very old.
No, you're not looking old. I think you've actually caught the sun. I think that's what it is.
Could we book Benedict every day for the rest of the week on Double Bubble? That would be lovely. Benedict Spence, we love having you on, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. 8:20, we're live across the United Kingdom. Still to come this hour, so John Curtice will tell us how the polls are looking after the Clacton by-election. Of course, Nigel Farage, in my absence the other day, winning Clacton. 63% of the vote and a turnout of 44%. He got 1,000 votes more than he got 2 years ago in the general election. He said it was the establishment, the people of Clacton and him against the establishment. Did it work? I don't know. We'll wait and see. The Parliamentary Standards Inquiry into that £5 million donation gift, whatever you want to call it, still ongoing. I personally think it's good they're back on the front foot. I agree with what Benedict said. They'd stalled for a couple of months. That's going to happen in politics. It's where you go from here. So now, this man's not happy with us. So half of Europe and Canada are on fire, yet it's wrong to send a reminder out to Brits to take care not to chuck their fag ends in a hedge or watch out with their mobile phones at barbecues. Do me a favour. So he thinks it is a good idea. Yeah, really? But then he's going to say to me, yeah, fields are burning because people drop their cigarettes. Chris is in Harrogate's posh there. Morning, JK. I was at a Faulty Towers tribute gig on Friday night. All the alarms are going off and we all thought it was part of the act. We all could have died laughing. Brilliant. So imagine that. The alarm made you die just by laughing your head off. Morning, Jeremy. Alarm, alarm, alarm. Remember, when they introduced this alarm system before the test, the government made a big thing that those with hidden phones, especially for those in vulnerable relationships... What's a vulnerable relationship? Are you cheating? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, domestic abuse, you're right. We're advised to turn the alarm off. Yet this Prime Minister didn't for something so mundane as to not use barbecues. Shows you where his priorities lie. It's a good point, by Steve. You're right. Vulnerable relationships, so they don't get... Yes, very good point, Christian. Thank you, Jez. Gives me hope that there are young people like the wonderful Poppy Coburn who can see through all the left's rubbish. Yes, she was brilliant today. Mary's in Canterbury. The benefit system has been broken for donkey's years, Jez. I can remember 30 years ago my husband had to claim for a few weeks. He got sent on loads of interviews and the young scammers, we knew them from our area, were left alone as they know how to play the game. Same will happen with whatever Reform tries to do. Dawn's in Cheshire. Morning, Jez. It's not the media pile-on that I feel needs to be scrutinised, but definitely due diligence from the entire recruitment process. I couldn't agree more. I wish people, says Peter Worthy, would stop calling Jason Arday a professor. He got the job fraudulently. I was in the audience of a local production of Shrek the Musical in Guildford last Friday night when about 300 mobiles sounded off. Luckily, the production team stopped the show. Also, luckily, no one in the audience was barbecuing any of their evening food at the time. That wouldn't work, would it, if you were taking a disposable barbecue to a theatre? Obviously not. Jez, welcome back. The Tories would have more respect if they turned their sights on King Andy and highlighted Labour's failures rather than spend their time trying to copy Reform and slag them off for having no policies. It is ridiculous. Les is in Blackpool. Have you been on the big one, Les? See what I did there? What about all the phones going off in prison for the alerts? That's a very interesting... You're not telling me people have smuggled phones... And what about all the illegal migrants who get free mobile phones? They got an alert. They're on the beach having a barbecue. Honestly, it doesn't even bear thinking about, does it? Jim's in Exeter. You been to Exeter, Christian? Lovely place down there. Why have a talk like that? Cleverly sounded good, but he's a typical robot politician. His auto-response sign is only the Conservatives. He had his chance, you've missed it. Right, 03 double sounds like me. 0344 499 1000. Boz, good morning.
JK, welcome back. Travelling Boz here. Andy Burnham, you got on these subjects. The Prime Minister, prima donna, going around doing a listening tour. He went away for 10 days, didn't worry about the environment then, came back, had a Cobra meeting about barbecues and fire hazard and sent alarms off panicking people more than they would have done. Didn't he go down to Dover? It must have scared the people abroad, seeing that he was down at Dover saying, we will make sure we get things right, because the next thing, was it the day after, they sent a huge boat of 230 people on it. The man needs to get his priorities right.
own Farage Fest last night, which was held in a paddock about 12 miles from where I am here at the pier. And that's where he delivered his victory speech before the count came in. And some view that as deeply controversial.
If you went to do a victory speech at the count, what you'd have had is 30 chumps there, all sort of screaming and shouting and heckling and, you know, making a big distraction on stage. And
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:27. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is JK on Breakfast on Talk, the home of common sense. Thanks for tuning in today. You're waking up to the news that at 11 o'clock, Robert Jenrick will deliver reforms planned for cutting £50 billion off the welfare benefits bill. You're waking up to an official Cabinet Office report warned that overusing mobile alerts would undermine public confidence in the system. The UK's emergency alert system was deployed on Friday by Louise Haigh. The one who had a mobile phone stolen, but it didn't. The one who's got a conviction. Anyway, never mind. Sparking mayhem to inform millions of people in England and Wales that wildfires could be caused by barbecues and fireworks. We've had some hysterical things about where people were. And also more about the story about the death of Jason Arday and how Cambridge and other universities are jumping up and down blaming the media pylon. I repeat. This story is very tragic, but I think the face is people at the top of institutions who have put him in a position, knowing his background, some of the frailties, some of perhaps the lies which have now been proven. They need to look in the damn mirror as well. 0344 499 1000. Very quickly, let's say a very good morning. Dave, how are you?
Morning, Jezza. Dave from Horsham. Alarm Clock Britain. James Cleverly. Behave, will ya? He's the biggest establishment. Migrants welcome. He's one of them. He's one of them. He's in the club. He went to the right school. He's the worst. Absolute. Take care.
Mark's in Essex. Morning, Jez. As someone who is disabled following a serious accident and now chronic health conditions prevail, I can no longer work. I utterly welcome reforms plans. I'd give anything to go back to work and get a sense of purpose back. People in my situation need to realise it is the left who scaremonger about welfare reforms and claim genuine people like me will be targeted in order to stop any reforms to welfare, whatever. Great, great point. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. Let's say a very good morning to... Well, he's not just the polling expert, he is the only expert and the Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. Sir John Curtice, good morning, Sir John. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Jeremy. How's yourself?
Not bad. Now, listen, we've had a few strange answers to this. I know you won't, but where were you when that bloody alarm went off on Friday, Curtis? What was happening?
I was south of the border, so therefore I did get the alarm, because those of us who live in Scotland, which shall we say has been relatively wet, if you were in Scotland, you didn't get the alarm. I was sitting on a train from London back north, having done an overnight stint in for the coverage of the Clacton by-election. I think I was probably somewhere like Lancaster or something like that.
Did everybody's phones... What do you make of it, just quickly, personally? I'm just interested. Do you think it's worthwhile
Well,
or ludicrous?
I mean, I think maybe the issue is that the government didn't warn people. I do remember one previous occasion when it was used up here. There was we were facing in the west of Scotland a severe winter storm. People were being advised to stay at home, and indeed the shops were shutting, and the public transport was being shut down. It was said in advance that people's phones would go off in advance. This was on the evening before of the day in question. And on that occasion, I was singing in a concert and the phones went off, but everybody knew what was happening because it had been signalled in advance that was going to happen. So I just wonder whether maybe if the government had said the phones are going to go off, then some of the controversy would have been ameliorated.
Good man, just gone 8:30. Let's get your response. I was away Friday. Nigel Farage won Clacton, 63% of the vote, and a turnout of just about 44 or 45, securing 1,000 votes more than he did in the general election. We know the two main political parties, three I'm supposed to say, didn't stand. It was all about Count Binface. I think there's something particularly strange, though, about main parties canvassing for him. But there you go, that's just my opinion. There are those who thought it was pointless. There are those who think it was a good idea. We don't need to get into the whys and wherefores. In terms of polling, what did you find out there locally in Clacton and on the national scale as a result of last Thursday's election, Sir John?
OK, I mean, the first thing one has to say that Clacton is virtually sui generis. You can't read anything in general to what's going on in our politics from the result in Clacton, not least because of the absence of Conservative, Labour, etc. candidates. I mean, I think about what one can say about the result itself, the two things you said are correct. The 44% turnout, I think, does make it rather more difficult to argue that at least voters regarded this as a stunt and a farce, as many of Mr Farage's opponents were claiming. And yes, indeed, Reform were able to say, look, you know, at least as many people voted for Nigel Farage this time as back in 2024. Therefore, we are arguing that this is evidence that the voters of Clacton are just as happy with him as their MP, despite the various allegations. I think the one thing one could say is that when David Davis did a similar thing, stood down, stood again as a Conservative candidate and wasn't facing competition from the principal parties, and there were lots of independent candidates, he managed to get 72% of the voters compared with Nigel Farage's 63%. So by that criterion, at least, which is the only other by-election with the precedent, you know, what I think I would say, you know, 8 or 9 out of 10 to Reform rather than necessarily 10 out of 10. So far as the national situation is concerned, well, the truth is we don't know as yet whether or not the result in Clacton and Mr Farage's victory there is going to change things. Where we do know where we're at is that basically Labour and Reform are now very close to each other. Two things to say about how we got to that situation. One is that Nigel Farage's decision to call the Clacton by-election way back on July the 7th, that was followed by a clear decline in Reform support from around 26 to 27% down to about 24. Now, whether or not it was a decision to call the by-election or whether it was some people reacting to the allegations that precipitated Mr Farage's decision, you know, we can't unpack. But it wasn't obvious that the calling of the by-election proved to be to Reform's advantage. Reform support's crept up a little bit since then. It's now probably back up to about 25%. Second thing, of course, that happened is the replacement of Keir Starmer with Andy Burnham. We've had the Burnham bounce. And that, of course, is what enabled Labour to get into a narrow lead, although I think, again, that lead is already narrowing. It's less than 1 point. But certainly, I think what one needs to realise, Reform are now facing a more competitive political environment than was the case a few weeks ago. They're not clearly first. Maybe they're equal first, but they're not clearly first anymore. They're facing a Labour Party that at least is feeling somewhat more confident about itself, but certainly got a more effective communicator. And the Conservatives have started crawling back some of the people who were switching from them to Reform last autumn. At that stage, it was around a third or so of 2019 Conservative voters. The figure is now down to a little low below a quarter. So Nigel Farage does need to use this opportunity for a relaunch, and we're obviously hearing more about reform and welfare this morning, to try and get the party back on the front foot.
Couldn't agree more, John. It'll be really interesting to see how it unfolds, and you're right. I mean, I think they had They had a few issues. Whether those are over, whether that was a blip, whether getting back on the front foot is the right thing. There are rumours over the weekend that Farage has reportedly fallen out of love with Zia Youssef. Richard Tice said that's ridiculous. It's just a headline. They're in the equation. They just need to keep moving in the right direction. So, John Curtice, brilliant to have you on. Thank you so much, deep polling expert and Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. More on that later. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's take a couple of calls, shall we? Let's go to Cambridge. Melissa, good morning.
Morning, Jez. How are you?
Not bad for a slightly knackered old bugger whose hair's going white. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to see you back. I really missed you last 2 weeks.
Thank you. Lovely. We're paying you to say that, by the way, if you're just tuning in. Right, what you got, Mel?
I'll have my money later. It was just a couple of things, really, I wanted to mention. Me and my husband have been a Reform voter for a couple of years and also members. I cancelled my membership this morning. I'm a PIP claimant and I've got broken spine in several places. I'm medically ill health retired, so I can't work in any shape or form. I've worked since the age of 15. I worked full time. I had a child. I was a single parent. I went back to work after he was 6 months old in full time work. So I've worked. I've paid my way. I've done my bit, and I would love to be at work because it does improve mental health, and I think it's a great idea. I would love to go back to work, but I can't. And now that Reform are changing all the PIP, I know loads of other people in the same, not the same position as me, but medically or health retired, and they're really worried about this. And I've cancelled my membership this morning.
Listen, I'm not sitting here as somebody who's going to promote something or push something, but can you just do me one favour and answer this question? Because as you love having you on, right?
Yeah.
It strikes me, and I'm not on the dole, I'm not disabled, I'm not mentally ill. I had a small breakdown when what happened to me. I've been honest with people about that. But it strikes me that a lot about what happens whenever benefits are talked about is the rhetoric is pulled in whatever direction. This is not me being pro-reform. Listen to me. Explain to me as a genuine claimant, and you've explained why you are a genuine complainant who wants to work, who can't.
Yeah.
Do you understand that there are people getting as much, if not more than you, by not even doing a face-to-face interview? First question, do you accept that that's the case?
Yes.
Do you accept that whatever the political party, there's a massive wish now in this country to root out those scammers? Yes or no?
You've got to get those people back to work.
So why is it...
ADHD, anxiety, they need to go back to work.
My darling, why is it then that genuine claimants like you, and I want you to help me, believe that any party that's trying to weed out the scammers are going to, hear me out, are going to screw you? Because surely if there's more money in the system, the ones who are genuine, right, even if you have to prove it, it's a fact of life, but you are genuine, are going to benefit. Why does that annoy you so much? That would be my question.
I mean, I hear what they're saying. I hear that they're saying that, they want to help people out like myself. And I've heard that. I've heard Jenrick say it, I've heard Zia say it, and I've heard Nigel say it, and I've heard Richard Tice say it. I've heard them all say it. And I do believe them to a point, but I know what they're trying to do, and I understand it, and I totally get it. And I do think that all these stupid things that they've added onto PIP since I've been on it is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, anxiety and ADHD, you should be at work. It is the best thing for you. I would love to go back to work. I really would.
You should be a politician. You're not answering my question. You speak more sense than a lot of people, but hear me out. Why is it, I like you, why is it that anybody or any political party that says we need to do something about a welfare benefits bill that has ballooned so much, because let's be honest, we're paying money to people who don't deserve it, who are taking advantage, or we're paying it to migrants, or we're paying it, by the way, here's a good thing, nobody said this morning, that evil, vile, horrible human being Clacton that murdered those 3 poor students in Nottingham, the 2 students that... He gets £1,000+ a month on benefits into a bank account. What I'm saying is, why do people like you, Mel, and I'm being totally, right? Why do you utterly assume that anybody like Reform or the Tories or whatever trying to change that is going to screw you when actually they're saying it's about the people that are taking advantage?
I suppose because you hear all the other parties saying things like it's going to make it worse for people like me.
But you see, that's my fear. And I'm being straight, and politics is politics. This show is different. But, you know, when Starmer... I mean, the bill is 332 billion. He tried to knock 5 billion off, not even 2%. And they went nuts because they believe, I guess, that it's OK for people. I think there's a fear. And I'm not saying that I believe all politicians... But I will say this, at some point, we're going to have to trust in a government or a party that says there are edges that need to be sawn off on welfare. There are people who are going to have to be deported. There are foreign criminals that are going to... I'm not saying unsubscribe, get back your prescription, never vote for them. I don't mean that the wrong way. I just think it's important that we have the debate because people always say, they're coming for me and I'm genuine. Well... No, they shouldn't and won't come for you. They're coming for the people who are sitting on their backsides with a mobile phone or whatever. I mean, I did a show once and I got absolutely slaughtered for this. I'll never forget this. I'm sorry if this goes down like a lead balloon. They said, go and live on benefits in Preston for a week with a camera crew. £21.60 I had. The mince was awful. I bought the grease in it. Anyway, listen to me, right? 7 o'clock, I do my first link outside. It's a summer's day, 7 o'clock in the morning. Not one curtain open. All sky dishes, mostly with mobility cars. I'm telling you the truth. Go and look for a job. I just think it's different. And can I make a suggestion to you?
Yeah, sure.
Sarah says you're amazing. Why don't you do a telephone-based job? You sound brilliant.
Oh, do you know, I really would. I love talking to people. I'm really sad and really down because it's really hard. I'd love to go to work and it just makes me really sad.
So let me make it my challenge. If I could get you a telephone-based sales job or something like that, would you ever go?
I most probably would.
What?
Occupational health have told me I can't work.
Why? Why?
I'm on a lot of controlled drugs.
Oh, right, okay.
MSP, Oromorph, things like that. And,
it's interesting, though, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a medical professional, but it's interesting, sweetheart, that you're saying, I'd love to, and you're so brilliant and vibrant. But as I said, listen, it's not for me to encourage you or discourage you. You must do what you think. But I do think, and I think you've acknowledged that, I do think we have to be able to have a conversation about people scamming the system and dispel the fear that they're genuine. Because I can tell you categorically, right, I am happy to go to work and pay tax for people like you because it's not through your choice, and that's the thing. But like your anger, you said, when people are taking the mickey, it's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, I get really angry because I would just like to say to them, it will make you better. Believe it or not, you might think that when you go back to work and you feel that, you know, you've worked hard, you've earned that money, you know, and it's just better for you. I can't believe that people just want to sit on the dole and just sit home all day.
You will do for me, and you are always welcome, mate, and I mean that. I really appreciate your call, Mel, all right?
Yes, can I just say one more thing?
Oh, God.
That alert that went out on Saturday about the fireworks disposal barbecues, how comes Pakistan Independence Day were allowed to have fireworks Saturday night in London?
I didn't know that. Brilliant. She's great. Listen, can you have a word with your occupational health therapist? Because you can answer the phones here. Take care, sweetheart. Brilliant. That's interesting. Can we check that out, please? Wow. 17 minutes to 8. Laura, morning.
Jeremy, Laura in Wiltshire. Really interesting interview with Isabel, as always. I'm completely with you. This policy announcement today is really important and really interesting. And a pompous old like James Cleverly can just do one, saying that it's not been properly thought through. Well, it's being announced today, Mr. Cleverly, so why don't you wait and see? Hopefully this means that the media will start, mainstream media will start looking at policy and not prattling on about 5 million quid that nobody's interested in. Everybody wants some changes, and I think reform is the answer. Great show.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:15. We're live across the UK. This is Jeremy Kyle and Talk. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10. The brilliant Dr. David Bull from 1 o'clock in for that lazy bugger Ian Collins. Is he on holiday again? Can't believe it. Is Kev O'Sullivan still around, is he? He's on drive time. I'm joking. That's a great drive time show. That's what it says here. I'm joking. I love him. Jeremy, I was at the Wickham Swan Theatre on Friday and everyone in the bar area just looked totally confused as the alarm went off. Everybody put their drinks down and headed for the door thinking it was a fire drill. Paula Young. What? Dear Jeremy, I was having a lazy punt on the river in Oxford when that... See, I always worry when I have to I was having a lazy punt on the river in Oxford when that awful alarm went off. I lost my concentration, hit the bank, and my glass of Vino Bianco toppled over, says Paul in Oxford. Did you fall in the water, though, dear boy? Matt's in Brighton. The Albanian guy who drinks in the pub had alerts on all of his 3 iPhones while stood at the bar. 3 phones? Why do you need... Never mind. Julie... Oh, Christ, look at this. Jezza, your last caller just cancelled a reform membership over benefits. If you can use a phone, you can work. Interesting. Jez, I was so alarmed by the alert, I dropped my barbecue and set fire to my garden, says James in Manchester. Good to see you back, JK. Nice town. This business about benefits. Surely all the genuine people won't be complaining about these new ideas. They will be glad at last that something will be done about those scrounging. Good luck to reform for having the nuts to say what they believe. Let's see how long before one of the other parties claims they thought about it in the first place. Morning, Jez. Great to have you back. If the alarm goes off because of a real emergency like being under attack, where would we go as we don't have bunkers or anything like that? To me, it's absolutely pointless, and I've turned it off. Brilliant. OK, it's going well. We've done that. Julian's in Newport. Again, not Welsh and not Christian's father. Jezza, nice to have you back. In Wales, we got the alert in Welsh, which is really useful. If, as the majority here, you don't speak Welsh. I got the English version 14 hours later. Is that true? 14 hours later. Sean's in Bridlington. I was once offered a summer season in Bridlington in tights. I said no. The last time I heard the alert was over the car radio as I was driving through the Nevada desert from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. It was raining so hard the desert was flooding. Now that's an emergency. I should think. I don't know what he's talking about. It's in Bridlington, bless his heart. 0344 499 1000. Let's say a very good morning to a man. I've got so much to say to my friend. Ben Habib, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
First of all, Benjamin, where were you when the alarm went off?
What? Oh, on Friday?
Yes.
I didn't get a notification. I think I've been taken off the government mailing list.
You haven't. Oh, God. One man phoned in this morning. He was making love to his wife. He said it put him off his track. People were on trains and also... You didn't get it?
I didn't get it. Or if I got it, I swiped it left or whatever you do to get rid of
no,
thing on your phone.
That's Tinder. Don't start on that, Habib. Ben, every time you're on the show, everybody says what so many, including me, think is that you are a great man with great opinions, and it has always seemed a shame that you and Reform went your ways. But irrespective of that, today we have Nigel Farage's party. The cynics would say trying to deflect the discussions about the 5 million. Others would say to deflect the apparent argument between him and Azir Youssef. Apparently they've fallen out of love. The Reform front foot approach today at 11 o'clock is to say that they can save £50 billion in welfare. Music to many people's ears, not just banning foreigners from claiming benefit, illegal foreigners, but also... people on credit, on universal credit, on child benefit, pension credit, job seekers allowance, free childcare, disability, having to actually be assessed face-to-face to finally get a grip of the scroungers who undoubtedly, whatever anybody says, make up large numbers now. However you dress this up, that's absolutely right, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think whether or not it's seeking to be a distraction from the financial scandals will largely be revealed in the depth and breadth of the policy. If the policy is well thought through and well delivered, then I suggest it probably isn't a distraction from the scandals. It's a genuine policy. And of course, any sane-minded individual would support the reduction in the welfare state. 35% of this country's budget now goes on welfare. Only a third of that goes on our defence. And when a country is spending more on effectively keeping people from working, keeping people in clover while they're not working, than it does on its own defense. Something has gone wrong with the country's economic and cultural setup. So I completely agree that welfare needs to be dramatically cut back. And by the way, I think Melissa, who was your caller on, while I was waiting to come on, I thought she made some very pertinent points, and one that shouldn't be lost on people, that as we correct the pendulum away from those who are dependent on the state to those who actually contribute to the state, there will be mistakes made because policies are made at a very high level. They can't address every single individual's particular circumstances. And in the pursuit of putting the country straight, innocent people will suffer. But the blame for the people who suffer is not at the door of the government that puts in the tough medicine, does the hard work to put this country back on the straight and narrow. The blame should go to the last 30 years of government that's created the dependency culture in the first place.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And I get frustrated, right? I get frustrated when any discussion, Ben, about dealing with the most ridiculously large bill, which is strangling this country. Strangling. Not just the interest is strangling the country, let alone the debt. That any discussion is grabbed by any other party on the left. They're going to, you'll be in poverty, you're all going to be destroyed, you'll get none of your money. Surely the argument is, very calmly to say, the genuine people who remain genuine, who will be assessed as genuine, are missing out because these scammers are taking money out of the bigger pot.
Yeah, and I would argue that some people who don't even regard themselves as scammers are probably scammers because they've talked themselves into a sense of victimhood over 30 years of the creation of this dependency culture and victimhood. What this country needs is a good dose of get up and get on your front foot, get aspiration going, forget about relying on others for your own well-being, make sure that you are capable as best you can to deliver your own well-being. And that comes from reducing taxes. And you can only reduce taxes and reduce regulations to make people's lives more cost-effective and better by cutting the welfare bill. So there has to be some tough medicine. And it can't be the few that defeat the benefit for the many. We've got to be robust now when it comes to cutting benefits. And what I'd like to see out of reform, I bet we won't see it, but I'd like to see, is reform also getting to grips with the fact that half of the 1.5 million people, foreigners on benefits in this country, are actually EU citizens. They get those benefits because of the withdrawal agreement that Boris Johnson signed with the European Union, and they need to be stripped of them. Why are we paying benefits for European citizens who are perfectly capable of being looked after by their own nations? Why the hell are we doing it? But then we would have a bust-up with the EU. And I want to see in the detail of reforms policy whether it's prepared to have a bust-up with the EU. Because if we really want to get this country back on its feet, that's going to be a necessary component of going forward, not just for making sure that foreigners don't get benefits, but if we want to leave the European Convention of Human Rights, we're required under the Trade and Cooperation Agreement with the EU to remain in it. So we're going to have a bust-up with them. If we want to get rid of net zero, we're obliged under the Trade and Cooperation Agreement with the EU to stay in it. So we're going to have a bust-up with the EU. Good. Everything reform wants to do means we're going to have a bust-up with the EU. And I haven't seen a single comment out of reform, or indeed the Conservatives, or Restore Britain, on how we are going to deal with the European Union. We cannot get this country back on its feet until we undo the damage that Boris Johnson did by those two deals. It goes hand in hand with reform, with the reform of welfare, with the reform of our employment laws, with the reform of ridiculous net zero and our energy policies, being able to buy British first, which has got to be a core component of this country going forward, is prohibited under our arrangements with the EU. Our fishing waters are handed over. If we want this country back on its feet, that has to be tackled. So if it's going to be a grown-up policy, what I really hope to see from reform is also some talk about how it's going to deal with the fallout with our European, so-called European friends and partners.
I couldn't agree more. And also, somebody said to me earlier, Ben, which is, he said, well, I married a European and she won't be able to get any benefits. And I know this isn't going to sound very good, what I'm going to say. Where's the aspiration then? I grew up believing that the benefit system was to help those, and I was happy to pay into it, who couldn't help themselves. I will argue the toss with anybody that once it becomes a career choice, once it becomes not
Absolutely.
a safety blanket but a bloody bouncy castle you can bounce around on while having fun, then it becomes an issue.
Absolutely.
And the message, you're absolutely right. Unless there's so much that needs doing in this country, whether it's deporting illegal migrants, whether it's closing our borders, whether it's getting tough with welfare reform, there have to be politicians who, excuse my French, don't give a toss if the left-wing media jump up and down. I hate to use him as an example because people are going, Donald Trump didn't, when he got back, give a fat rat's backside what people thought, and he cured a lot of ills very quickly.
Your attitude is precisely the attitude a future Prime Minister of this country needs to have if we're to get back on our feet. It's got to be, we don't give a toss what the EU thinks. We don't give a damn what the UN thinks. We don't give a damn about the IMF. We don't give a damn about what the European Defence Union thinks. We're going to put British interests first. We're going to do it unashamedly. And we're going to do it in a way that will supercharge this country and bring it back to its former prosperity. And to hell with everyone else. And that's what I would like to see out of reform. Some gutsy speak which joins up not just the one policy that they're focusing on today, but the consequences of that policy and all the other thing that needs to be done in order to make sure that that policy can be delivered. That would be grown-up government.
Couldn't agree more, mate. It's lovely to have you on. Everything. I love that red wall. We love having that red wall on this show. Great as ever, my friend. Chairman of Great British PAC, the excellent Ben Habib on breakfast. Thank you. In the next hour, Trevor Kavanagh, legendary ex-political editor of The Sun, will be on the show. Also, Robert Bates, research director at the Centre for Migration. They're amazing, by the way. They absolutely understand what's going on. 9 o'clock. Jez, I think we made it too easy for the fectors in this country to claim benefits. It's all done from home, online, with a convenient cash drop straight into their banks. Bring back the dole queue. There used to be a stigma for claiming benefits. Now people boast about how much they're receiving. Jez, what about British citizens living in the EU? They can claim benefits if they lose their job or can't work for health reasons. Very interesting point. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We will do the news on the UK's home of common sense, and then we'll be... I sound like Mark Dolan there. News is next. What's happening to me? My arms have gone all funny.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The entire city is being overwhelmed, and there are people who bear direct responsibility. Those responsible are the national government, led by Pedro Sanchez and his ministers, as well as Mr. Marlaska, and of course, the European institutions, which have completely failed in what's supposed to be the European Union's external border.
Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
Well, Morocco, of course, is hosting the next World Cup. I mean, are we
invading the country? And what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law. They passed a couple of laws, and people read. You know, people are smart. They read from other countries, and they swam that 3-mile sweat wall, however they got in, but nobody's seen anything like it. That will look good compared to what's going to happen to the United States. The biggest thing, the worst thing that Biden did is allowing 25 million people into our country.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I wouldn't get that far. Entertaining, don't be ridiculous. It's gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. JK on Breakfast on the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. So much to talk about. My daughter's just texted me. You love this, Harriet. Dad, it's brilliant. I don't even know why I'm reading this out, but I am because I'm very honest to my listeners. Dad, do you have my Elizabeth Arden face cream? You used it in Centre Parks on your knee and I can't find it. I mean, really, I've no idea. Did I use it on my knee? I've no idea. It's very, very strange. 0344 499 1000. What are you waking up to? You're waking up to the news that Reform plan to cut £50 billion off the benefits welfare budget. This morning at 11 a.m, Robert Jenrick will hold a press conference and he will push forward the fact that not only will they ban foreigners from claiming benefit, but everybody will have to undergo face-to-face reassessment. That sends waves of fear amongst people who go, oh, my God, Reform and any person that wants to cut benefits are going to screw our lives. No, they're saying that we need to do something about scammers, the people who are taking advantage. Your thoughts on that? We'll speak more about the alert that went out on Friday. Lots of people laughing about that. And also the head of a Cambridge college this morning, Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College, has called an investigation into the media onslaught on Jason Arday, the man who sadly lost his life on Friday. He said he was subject to the most horrendous, hate, toxic, vicious witch hunt by the media ever. I've been saying this all morning and I'll repeat it. His story is tragic. He was a father and a husband. But as easy as it is to have a go at the media, right? What about the failings of the people around him? What about the people, the faceless people heading up institutions who accepted his claims and built him up? Cambridge University has never in its history released a press release saying this man is now a professor. They made a big point. DEI, you might suggest, I don't know. Are they not responsible for putting him in the limelight, knowing there were problems and failings within what he does? That's the point. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222, 9:05. Yes, Pete, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. There are some towns in England, right? They need to put a nuclear warning out over the phone, don't they? Because instead of having that horrible tone, though, they could have cheering, clapping, fireworks going off, the sound of music, fantastic. And also, right, the most important one would be, it'd be going off all the time, wouldn't it, if they gave us a warning when these bloody boats keep turning up on the shore? It'd be going off twice, 3, 4 times a day. Or even worse, if there's a Labour MP in your area. Anyway, have a nice day, and I'm glad you enjoyed your holiday. How many holidays this year is it?
Brilliant. Let me tell you something, cheeky git. It wasn't a holiday. I've come back here for a bleeding rest. Children everywhere, children and grandchildren. My wife's sick. It's been horrible. Dreadful, dreadful. Anyway, back here, have a biscuit in peace and quiet. Now, emergency alarms. Do we know what the emergency alarm alert sounds from the government? Do you know what it sounds like? Can I just play what it sounded like? Because I've got some suggestions. Can we play, or was that going to upset people? It'll upset people, OK. This is a warning. These are a few suggestions for what I think the emergency alert system should sound like. Have a listen. See what you think. Jesus, God. Oh, God. Ship ahoy! What? Oh! What is that? Any more? That's it. See, that sums up, I think, the creative ability of the team that put this crap together. 2 sounds that they've got off some phone. Anyway, that was it. We don't think they're a good idea. Let's speak to a man. Am I brave enough to ask the legend? Trevor Cavan, a former political editor of The Sun. Where were you when the emergency alarm alert thing went off on Friday, my friend?
Well, I was near my home and I was alerted by this noise in my pocket. And so was everybody else around me, and all scrambling to find out what it was, and then immediately carried on doing whatever they were doing.
In terms of, I know we've made a bit of fun this morning, because, God, if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do this. But on a serious note, an official Cabinet Office report warned that overusing mobile alerts would undermine the public confidence in the system. You've got that argument between making people aware and also people saying this is a bloody nanny state. This is ridiculous. Where do you stand on this, Trev?
Well, I do think there's a risk of crying wolf. This was not a national emergency. Nobody was immediately threatened. Their lives weren't in danger. This was a problem, not a crisis. And I think that the fact that it's Louise Haig who apparently put this out tells you quite a lot about the decision, doesn't it?
Well, somebody texted earlier and said, isn't that the one who had a mobile phone nicked? Maybe she was trying to send an alert to see if she could find it before she got into more trouble, which is quite good. Trev, so much I want to talk to you about. I'm actually going to start not with reform. I'm going to start with Jason Arday, because you as a man who's been part of the press for a long time, I just want to give you what and how I see this. And I want to play you something, if I can, that Poppy Coburn talked about earlier. This morning, and obviously this guy died on Friday. This guy was put in the public spotlight big time by Cambridge University. They released a press release saying he was the youngest black professor, he'd run marathons, he'd raised money, all of that. This started to unfold. The press, public interest, if you put yourself out there, decided to have a look at this, and very quickly, I think all forms of the press suddenly realised that a lot of this story was fabricated, there was plagiarism, there was all sorts of things. Lord Woolley, the principal at Homerton College in Cambridge, Trevor, has said this morning that Arday was subjected to the most horrendous, toxic, violent, vicious witch hunt before his death. Now, I sort of feel like I'm allowed to talk about this because I have been in the eye of the storm, as you know, 7 years ago. And I think this story is tragic, but as tragic as it is, isn't this as much about the people at Cambridge University who made this man the poster boy, knowing his failings, knowing his claims didn't add up, and putting him in a position where many would say, you are responsible for putting him out there. He didn't put himself out there, they did. Am I right or wrong there, Trev?
You're absolutely right, and I think that this is it is a tragedy about this young guy who was quite clearly a fantasist. And it wouldn't have taken any forensic skill on the part of the Cambridge authorities to unearth some of the anomalies in his story. I think that far from this being a failure of the media in trying to deal with an obvious case of fantasy job applications, this is a failure of duty of care on part of Cambridge. Cambridge simply hoisted this guy into the spotlight of publicity without thinking twice about the likely ramifications or the fact that anyone was going to take notice sufficiently to double-check his credentials.
And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, the reason I brought up my own experience 7 years ago is it was horrible, but I understood there was a job being done, and I said nothing for 6.5 years, deliberately, right? If you do not expect the media to investigate stuff of interest, even if you don't like the results of that, it's a very easy target, isn't it? Let's blame the media. And listen, and I can say it because I was there. You are right. I've nothing against... I'm devastated for his family and for his friends. It is tragic. You use exactly the right word. But it is interesting that the left, you know, the left and DEI and all these institutions that purport to be so caring and sharing... I'll just blame the media. Just imagine if he'd been given that job by an institution that wasn't DEI, and the pile on there would be. And I think it's outrageous. I really do. And I thought it all weekend. And it was interesting coming back off holiday, speaking to Christian and the team here, because everybody shares the same belief. They need to look themselves... You know, he was built up into a position he wasn't qualified to be in by an institution that wanted to make him a poster boy. That's bad.
Yes, and I think that this is a totally artificial storm whipped up by the usual suspects on the left. I think they were geared up for it even before he died, because they'd made up their minds that they had to defend themselves against what was the freedom of the press, the right of the public to know the facts about this man. They knew what they were going to do. I mean, I hesitate to put it quite so bluntly, but this in a way was manna from heaven for those who want to blame the people who believe in democracy and the freedom of the press, which is the foundations of democracy, the freedom of the press to hunt out things which are wrong. And this was wrong. And many people have paid a price, not a major price, but a price in terms of the fraudulent tuition that he was dishing out to fee-paying students on a course which was in itself something of a fantasy, and they were having to pay £6,000 a year for the privilege of hearing drivel from someone who wasn't qualified.
Interesting thoughts. My friend, let's talk reform. Today, Robert Jenrick making a major speech at 11 saying that apart from banning foreigners from claiming benefits in a bid to save £50 billion off that £330 billion bill, also they're going to push this out and say to people, look, sorry, there are scammers. It's about time we did something about acknowledging this rather than fall for the fear that if you do that, everybody's going to miss out. I had a lady on earlier, which symbolises the problem any party has who wants to attack this. I'm on PIP, I can't work, oh my God, I've cancelled my reform subscription, I'm never going to vote for them again, those buggers are going to take my money. And I patiently and quietly said to her, listen, I'm not here to support reform and tell you to not do that, but here's the thing. If we don't, I said to her, do you accept there are scammers? Yes. Do you accept that people who are scamming the system are taking money away from genuine people? She said, yes. I said, well, something needs to be done. And you need to understand if you're going to have to do face-to-face or reassess, the genuine people will be fine. It'll be the people who are taking the mickey. I personally love this idea this morning, that claimants would have to swap thousands of pounds worth of cash for benefits in help, you know, like if you've got anxiety issues, we'll send you for some counselling. If you've got therapy, we'll send you for therapy. Isn't that a good idea, Trev?
Yes, I think that, look, the taxpayers are groaning under the weight of what is basically a fraudulent system. We spend £100 billion a year on welfare benefits of various kinds. And if the reform measures work, that would be sliced in half. I think that's a pretty unlikely outcome, but it's nice to think that somebody's prepared to do something. But fraud alone takes up about 10% of that. That's £10 billion a year just in people who blatantly fiddle the system. So you could start there for one thing. Basically, what you've just said is the case that people have latched on to benefits, especially benefits for mental health problems, mostly fantasy too, which are enabling them to stay at home instead of working.
And it's about the messaging, isn't it? Because if you just leave it, that you just say, we're going to cut it, people will go, oh, my God, you need to get out there and explain that the genuine will do OK. The other thing I wanted to ask you, the Brilliant Sun, your ex-political editor paper, and this story has just literally driven people to distraction today, Trevor. Henry Novak's killer will be allowed prison-to-prison video chats with his jailbird mum. Henry's grieving mum, however, Henry Novak can never speak to her son again. Can I ask you, because you'd know this, he gets 20 years for lying and playing the race card when he stabbed this poor boy to death. The mother gets a ridiculously meagre 3 years for hiding the weapon. How heinous is that as a crime?
Well, look, this story on its own sums up the madness that is modern Britain, doesn't it? And, you know, we now have so few prison places that you can't put away someone like the mother of this murderer who aided and abetted him in trying to escape justice for more than 3 years. And of course, she won't do 3 years. She'll barely do 18 months if if we release prisoners as we are doing. She could be out next year. This is honestly an unbelievable testimony of the way that crime and justice is going to the dogs in this country, because we have a system which allows people to commit crimes and get away with it most of the time. And when they're caught, they get a slap on the wrist.
You know, when you say that in the cold light of day, right, what you've just said, if I recorded that and played it back to people, you're so right. How did we get to a point where if you commit a crime, an excuse is found for you, your sentence is 70% off, the victim is not as important? I mean, it's appalling. I mean, he should never see the light of day. She should absolutely... But at what point, by the way, I mean, apparently the prison officers are up in arms. At what point did two prisoners associated with a murder, how are they allowed to do video? Who says that's allowed? What, two left-wing DEI governors? How does it happen, Trev? Any ideas? Because I've none.
That's the way of the world at the moment. Frankly, they are in command. We are in the thrall of people who are politically correct, with the need to be kind, the avoidance of any possible whiff of racism, particularly, the obeisance to the DEI code of doing the right thing by people who are doing the wrong thing. you know, we are in a corrupt world. And I think that we have an overwhelming majority of the public who are absolutely outraged by this. And the sort of trend we're watching, which is reaching crisis points very obviously before our very eyes, has been growing and growing ever since the period of the Blair government, who I feel, frankly, they unleashed issues which they knew not what was likely to happen in the future. This is the sort of attitude of ignoring cracked windows. Don't worry about small crime, think about big crime. Then small crime turns into bigger crime, and we still don't do anything. Shoplifting, phone snatching, motor offences, apart from those caught by CCTV, all of those go by the board, and therefore people think they can get away with it, and that's what they will do, and they will get worse.
God, man, we've got to keep the fight. Listen, it's so good to have you on, as ever. Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun, thank you so much indeed. 9:20, we're live across the UK. Let's take a call quickly. Linda's in London. Linda, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. What can we do for you?
What? I have worked all my life. I've retired now, but I had a catastrophic car crash in 1991 that left me with a lot of bony injuries and life-changing injuries. A while to recover. Then I went back to work. I worked all my life. I've got 5 children, brought them up on my own, and I've worked hard. Over the past few years, my health has deteriorated. I applied for PIP first time, and first time I just got the basic, and then I reapplied afterwards because my health has really gone down, and I was awarded full mobility, which awarded me with a car and, you know, blue badge, which I'm so happy with. It really makes my life so much easier. I'm one of these people that I worked as much as I could, and then I improved my life by working. I've never had any benefits or anything. I always worked. And I just think that I know people who have taken the mick, who never worked, they have no reason to be at home apart from they're lazy. And that is really the beginning and end of it.
We had a call from a lady earlier who said that she'd cancelled her Reform membership when she heard of this policy because in her mind they were going to come after her by saying there's going to be a wholesale reassessment of everybody. Now, let me ask you the same questions as her. Do you believe there are people scamming the system?
Yeah.
Do you believe that being able to just be assessed online but without even speaking to somebody is going to make that even worse in terms of scamming?
I think that you should be front-facing. You should see a medical, you know...
But then why did she, our last caller, let me ask you, you've talked about your health issues, the genuine will be able to prove they've got issues. Yeah. Surely that assessment, that face-to-face part will say to the scammers, the feckless, no, you're not getting away with this anymore.
Well, I applied for mine, and just briefly, I got mine for 10 years. I was awarded it for 10 years because of all the different medical issues that I've got. My car crash left me in hospital for 3 months. I was on life support and everything. But then I went back to work. I worked as much as I could, worked full-time, civil service, NHS. I've done everything. And I don't get why people are just sitting back expecting our government. I've got 2 private pensions and my state pension. I pay tax on my private pensions. So I'm still paying for people to sit around on their backsides doing nothing.
Couldn't agree more.
It really annoys me.
Don't blame you, mate. And listen, great to have you on. Keep the faith. Brilliant. Linda in London, thank you. 9:21. Just want to get back to that Jason Arday story because I want to get this in again because it was so brilliant. You know, when we started talking about this morning, we made the point that, you know, the story's tragic. But it's really easy for people to jump on board and blame the media, like Lord Woolley, the principal of Homerton College this morning, saying, you know, the most horrendous, toxic, vicious witch hunt by the press. I just pointed out very subtly that as much as you want to blame the press, perhaps we should look at the people heading the institutions that wanted to make Jason Arday a poster boy when they knew full well that his qualifications were flawed, that there were issues, and they were putting him out there where he would be scrutinised. Poppy Coburn, who did the papers with me this morning, absolutely nailed this. Have a listen. This is Pops earlier.
It seems like the left forget this every single time it's convenient for them. But suicide is not someone proving a point. It's not something that you can bring up as a kind of excuse then to turn around and attack your political enemies. It is a personal choice that someone's made, and to draw any lessons from it is very, very dangerous indeed, because what you're telling people is if they feel that they've been attacked by someone, they can go, look, told you so. Look, I'm doing this, and it's a kind of like almost spiteful thing. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do. That is not how we should talk about mental health in that way. And I think the way that the left has responded to the death of Jason Arday has been incredibly cynical and irresponsible. No one is responsible for this man's death. No one in the media is responsible for this man's death, OK? No one's done that, and it's very, very unfair to say that. Going into what Cambridge University has done, I think for them, they're now going to turn around and say, we've got no duty of care. It was totally fine that we put a press release out saying he was the youngest black professor in the United Kingdom. We were desperate for this person to be a public figure. Totally fine that we ignored the multiple concerns that were raised by academics for years, that he was a plagiarist, that he wasn't teaching students properly. Totally fine that an academic in their early career has missed out on an all-important job because he got that job even though he wasn't qualified for it. No, 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 it's all the nasty right-wing press. We can totally remove any responsibility that we had for hiring this man, for promoting him, as we did for years and years and years. We can just say it's a smear against him. You know that they're still not acknowledging, many of the Cambridge colleges, they're not even acknowledging that he was a plagiarist. They've now just completely dropped that. If you're an early career academic, what is your takeaway from this entire scandal? Seriously, what is your takeaway from this? It's that if you can turn it into a partisan political moment, you can just step back and ignore it. Doesn't matter. What does standards matter anymore in academia? We've all just admitted that academia isn't about actually learning anything. It's about making you feel good.
He didn't need to call that by-election, and he spent the entire summer fighting a bin who got nearly 10,000 votes. The winner, I suspect, actually is Clacton, because the Count Bin-Face stuff went all over the world, and there are many people around the world, especially in the States, that are looking at Clacton and saying, it's rather nice, you know, maybe we'll go there on holiday next year. Clacton actually looked rather nice in the sunshine, and Clacton itself is the gainer. Farage made a complete fool of himself. He treated his constituents with total contempt. He didn't even bother to...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, Paul Robert Bates from the Centre for Migration Control, who we love. Just a little thing. Lee, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from God's Country. This alarm will be beside themselves with excitement because it's the new fear factor. Every time they want to get a message, they're going to send it out. The bigger question is, why did it cost £4 million? I was in the 3 Mile, which I'm sure you know, and everybody grabbed their phones and everyone was panicking. I've got it switched off on mine, and the amount of people in the pub that were now saying they're going to switch it off was phenomenal. Great show, mate. Keep it up.
Stop it! Stop it! No, stop it. No. Stop it. We thought... I mean, whatever you think about the whole thing, somebody said to me, they admonished me earlier and said, don't you want to know that fires can start by lighting a barbecue? Yeah. Although I think the emergency alarm system should be for, you know... Oh, but as somebody said earlier, if they were saying, by the way, there's an alarm coming in 3 minutes, well, stop it. Stop it, stop it. Don't start. So what about a bit of fun in the next half an hour? Come on, Robbie, get yourself all in order. He's very angry this morning. Oh, God, stop it. Stop it. Send me on WhatsApp. No, what is it? What is it? Yes. Voice note what your sound would be for an emergency alert. You can make this... Seriously? You can make the sound up, or you can do it, you can go, wah, like that, or you can play it. Stop it. What... what... Don't, Rob. What noise do you think the emergency alert should be? Should it... It's getting silly now. Big Mark is doing what Big Mark does best, pushing buttons. Just stick to driving buses. Now, listen, hold on. So, whatever you think it should be, 8722... No, you can't do a text. You've got to do a voice note. We can't hear it. What an idiot. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. At 9:30, Julia at 10. The amazing Dr. David Bull from 1. Kev O'Sullivan on Drive Time. That's how you're lining up on Talk Today. Let's go to... He's my favourite guest by a mile. Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Morning, Robert.
Morning, Jeremy. Hope you're well.
I'm good. Where were you, by the way, when that alarm went off on Friday?
I was in the pub. A load of sort of old blokes who'd had a few jars suddenly sort of keeling over. I think it was probably the scene across most of the country. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I do think, actually, though, there is something interesting here where we could probably use how many phones received that alert to actually get a better gauge of the population of the UK. Because, of course, we know we've got a massive illegal migrant population in here. And I think there's definitely a freedom of information request to be made there for some intrepid journalists to look into.
You see, now, that's a very good point. But you're very, very serious. But I was going to tell you that the reason I asked you is where you were, because this was a voice note I got from George earlier. Robert, have a listen.
Morning, Jeremy. Hope you had a lovely holiday with the family. It's George from Leicester. So when that stupid alarm went off the other day, how did it affect you? Me and the missus having a bit of how's your father, and yeah, all I can say is it spoilt the mood. Have a good one, mate.
Stop that noise. Be quiet. Right. I was away and I saw that bloody picture of that huge, mega vessel carrying a staggering 230 people across the Channel last Friday. You and I have talked incessantly about migration, and it's true to say, whatever anybody tells you, it's the biggest thing on the lips of almost every single person. So there's a story this morning, Rob, that says that mega dinghies from China are being shipped through Britain to France before criminal gangs pack them with migrants and bring them back over here.
It's absolutely laughable. This is the final nail in the coffin of the smash the gangs tactic. It just reveals how ludicrous it was always going to be, this idea that you solve this in any way through purely operational measures. You get the National Crime Agency working with some Europeans, storming into warehouses and popping the odd dinghy or seizing the odd motor. No, what we're dealing with here is sprawling, globalised trade networks met with incredibly sophisticated smuggling gangs that are constantly adapting and changing their tactics, many of whom, of course, are actually in the country. They're in the vape shop that's just sprung up on your high street. They're probably in an HMO. They're in many cases probably here on a visa. So the sprawling nature, the complicated nature of how these gangs are operating would have meant that the Home Office's tact of going down just trying to stop them was never going to work. And what they've done at the expense of tackling the demand side of things, which is how you actually solve this problem, is they've gone down a route where they can achieve short sort of peripheral wins of, oh, we've seized X number of motors, still a very small number of motors they've actually seized, and give the presentation of things actually working. None of it is working. We can all see clearly that it's not working. Look at the size of these mega dinghies that are now coming across. I think we've entered a new era of this crisis, and it's one that's going to rumble on.
And you look at that with 230 illegal migrants on board, and it would be fair to say the majority are men, although if Darren Jones is still in power, he'd say they're all women and children. The point is that there are press people in boats just driving around taking pictures. The thing's become almost like a farce. 230 people sitting on a dinghy heading towards our country illegally, and right now possibly and probably in hotels or HMOs on benefits. Mate, I go away, I come back. Boatload of fury is the headline. When is somebody going to do something about this? Is it political will? What is it? Robert, you nail it every time you're on.
Well, I think actually now the political class have kind of got us in large part numb to this crisis, where we've almost sort of accepted or lost sense of the scale of the numbers. So I do think it's worth just reminding viewers, in 2018, across the whole of 2018, fewer than 300 migrants came across. That was a major incident. The Home Secretary was coming back from holidays. It was the front page of every single newspaper. We were incredibly concerned about this potential national security threat. 200,000 plus migrants later, and we've got boatload carrying across a year's worth effectively in one go. And I think, unfortunately, it's something where the government have adopted this very technical approach, and they're trying to tell us that it's something that needs to be solved with incredibly complicated, sophisticated work at the NSA. No, it isn't. Everyone knows now it's a deterrent, it's a detention and deportation strategy, because even if another boat never crossed the channel there, Jeremy, and this is the really important point, even if another migrant never crossed the channel, which is never going to happen, of course, we would still have a huge crisis on our hand. We still got over 200,000, mainly unvetted young men in this country who will be long-term fiscal costs who are pulling at the threads of our society, and hardly any of them have ever been deported. Less than 5% have been removed from the country. So I think that the government has got so many fires it needs to put out on this, and it's instead going down this managerial approach, which can make it sort of seem like a numb, arcane administrative process, when it's actually what we're talking about here is the well-being and safety of our country and our society.
Couldn't agree more. And yet it seems to me that repeatedly we talk about it, stations talk about it, television networks talk about it, not the BBC. And I don't understand, and forgive me, I've asked you before, I don't understand why, if I was Andy Burnham, I'd be doing this right now. If I was Andy Burnham, I could do this in 1 week, hold an election and get my own majority for 5 years. Why is there a fear amongst politicians, do you think? And people throw at me the ECHR. Why is there not a fear? Why is there a fear to not stand up and say, right, this is Great Britain, we can't afford this, like Australia did under Tony Abbott. I'm not letting the boats in. I'll put the Navy in the channel. You can't come here. You're not going to throw whatever it is at me. This is where I am at because I need to protect the British people first and foremost.
Well, it's an issue of priorities, and I actually do genuinely believe that with our current political class, the British interest and the well-being of our citizens is only a second or third consideration. I do think, unfortunately, international law, this idea of soft power, which doesn't really actually mean anything on the international stage, for many, many who enter politics in this day and age, is a far greater consideration because it helps them to feel self-important and make up for their own inadequacies apart from anything else. So the result is actually these individuals who like to go off and swan around at the UN and brush shoulders with other statesmen and feel like they're dealing with incredibly complicated issues are prepared to ignore actually the tens of millions of people in this country who really only get one outlet every 5 years to voice their disapproval and to say what they actually want to happen. And unfortunately, that is the system we've now got. The hope would be, of course, at the next general election that those tens of millions of people are able to actually properly arrange themselves in a situation to turf out the current lot who have really driven our country onto the rocks.
In terms of the work that the Centre for Migration Control does, what's the belief? Where could this get to? How bad could this become? I know it's on the lips of everybody almost every single day, but how bad could out-of-control illegal migration get, Robert?
Well, I don't even think you need to ask what the Centre for Migration Control think. I think you ask the terror watchdog SAR, you ask the government's chief advisor. They've both said, A, it's a national security threat, and they've also said that these asylum seekers are more likely to be committing crimes, especially sex crimes. So there is actually those experts that are prepared to slightly break rank, and ones that the government should be listening to have said that there are very clear risk. I do think actually, especially with the plan of moving individuals into more affluent areas, we are going to undoubtedly see more public protests, hopefully ones that are very, very good at getting their message across. But I think actually, in a broader, more sort of sociological sense, I think across the country we've got a decaying social contract now where people are just sick to the back teeth of seeing their own money get thrown around at individuals that have broken into the country for them to live a life of variety. So it's more of an issue of actually how can the country survive? How can our democracy continue to be in any way accountable and representative of the interests of people in this country? As for the fiscal cost, costs. We know every single individual coming across is going to cost us a couple of £100,000 over the course of the lifetime.
Unbelievable, man, isn't it? How does that work? Robert, listen, always an absolute pleasure, my old son. I love the place you work at. Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates, Research Director. Thank you very much indeed. 23 minutes, 10 o'clock. Just as a bit of fun ahead of Julia, the emergency alarm that went off last week, we've decided, what would you like that noise to be? Ian, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Ian from Hemel Hempstead. I've got an idea for the alarm. People of a certain vintage will recognise it. I think you certainly will. This is how it goes.
Brilliant. Has he gone? I mean, you know, can you imagine if you were in the middle of something and that happened? Jezza, if the alarm was used to warn people about using disposable barbecues, then surely the alarm should be Keith Starling with the return of the sausages, says Andrew in Hull. Very good. Tony Sheridan, Norfolk. Great show as usual, Jezza. The alarm clock woke me up. I was having a nanny napper in a chair by my motorhome on a trip away in Suffolk. Nearly had a heart attack. Brilliant, brilliant. How did you die? Never mind. Alarm. There's a song that goes, here we go again on my... Yeah, I know that one. Laughing policeman soundtrack, Andy, very good. Alarm noise, a dog barking non-stop like my neighbours, says Mick. Jez, what about the Muppet song, whenever the Labour Party are doing anything? That's right, Jez. Oh, dear. This is Roger in Dorset giving you all an update. As far as I can find out, the exact cause of the wildfire has not yet been formally determined. As far as I know, none of the fires have been attributed to barbecues or fireworks in Dorset. Have a good day. Voice note. Tony, good morning. Sorry? What? Honestly, what's happened to this show? Your voice note, just send me a voice note on what you think the emergency sound should be. I love that. Well done, Tony. That's definitely impressive. Nicholas in Norfolk, Jez, the national alert should be Clive Owen's character in Dad's Army saying, don't panic, Mr. Mannering, don't panic, Mr. Mannering, don't. I can do that impression. All right, my love. Jez, I'm in Cambridge, right? Yeah. I heard the alert at 3 p.m. in Welsh and at 7 p.m. in English. He's called... What? Why in Cambridge then? Is that near Wales? I'm a bit confused. Anyway, 0344 499. Is that another emergency? No, it's another one. Listen, whatever you think the sound should be for the emergency alert, send us a voice note to make me smile for the last 20 minutes of the show. 0344 499 1000. Felicity, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. I didn't offer a different noise. I think some of those are most amusing, had me giggling. What I did think was all this concern about it going out in Welsh, considering all these illegal migrants have been living across Europe, but particularly, you know, Calais and around there.
Yeah, but it's war-torn. They need to leave Calais. It's war-torn. Don't, you know, it's not fair. Come on.
Well, anyway, they're living with campfires to do their cooking. Surely to goodness the message should have gone out in Arabic.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what to say about that. Sorry. Fine. Anything else to add to the party?
Well, I mean, yes, it was a bit ridiculous. And somebody, I think yesterday, suggested that the idea would be to have a public information. We used to get these ones, like there was this gorgeous one of there was a sort of cartoon thing with a bod looking at bright lights, okay, and there's a bear, and he says something about the lights being over bright.
Is this a dream? Is this a dream of yours, Felicity? I'm dribbling.
Sorry?
Was that a dream of yours, or did that happen?
Oh no, I'm just ancient enough to remember.
How old are you, my darling?
78.
You sound fantastic, and we love.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you.
You do? It's going
I must say, though, when you were going on a lot about becoming 61, I mean, I suppose in theory I could be your mummy.
That's another subject altogether, Mummy. Anyway, there we go. Thank you very much indeed, you wonderful woman. That's Felicity, or Mummy, as I like to call her. Rob, good morning. OK. Your suggestions for emergency alarms on WhatsApp, 03... No, what's it called? Voice note, 0344 499 1000. How about your voice as an alarm? Normally, when I hear it, I run the other bleeding way. It's nice, isn't it? That's from my mum. No, she's dead. My government alarm call will be SOS by ABBA. Very good, loving this. See, using your brains is how it works. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10:15. We're live across the UK. There's something a bit of fun about emergency alert number, or even alert. Where were you, and if you were in charge of the noise, what would it be? 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Morning, Jez. Maybe the press and the media need to have their own public inquiry on the front page into Cambridge University. It's all about time this DEI crap was fully exposed amongst our most important academic institutions. They also need to have an audit on free speech in universities as well, in my opinion, says Trevor in Harrow. Paul in Middlesbrough. Morning, son. About the welfare. I'm 51 now, but I joined the army at 16 where I got PTSD and have night terrors. Then, after leaving, I trained to be a farrier, and did that. A farrier? What's a farrier, dude? It's horses. Farrier, and did that for over 22 years. Now I have arthritis in my lower spine, can't walk more than 50 metres, and my hip and knee needs replacing. I worked all my life, but I actually feel guilty being on PIP. Fair play, mate. Oh, God. That woman who cancelled her membership with Reform, she doesn't know what Reform are going to do. It's utterly ridiculous. John is in Cumbria. I receive PIP and work full-time. Without PIP, I wouldn't be able to afford the help I need to be able to go to work. But it's all about what you want to do. 0344 499 1000. My alerts are turned off and will remain off. That is sun-damaged hair. Mine is white, but I'm 72. Thank you very much indeed. Sun-damaged hair, not white, as all of my children were saying. 10:45, let's say very good afternoon, morning, whatever it is. I've completely lost the plot. His kids go to my kid. Did you know that? Morning, Michael. Michael Neville.
Good morning, Jeremy.
They don't believe me. Your kids go to my kid's school, don't they?
They do, yes. One of them does,
he didn't turn up for the father's race, did you, Neville? Because what happened there? It was a bit pathetic.
I'm more of a rugby league player, Jeremy.
We know about you in the scrum. Now, Mr. Neville, there's a story today that I have to do before I finish. It's beyond shocking. Front page of the Daily Mail today. A paedophile fireman used a loophole in the law to keep changing his identity. Obviously calls to change the law. As the Daily Mail exposes, the pervert 20 aliases. Aliases 20. This is the same government. Paedophiles are avoiding jail all the time under Labour's sentencing law changes, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And why should anybody legally be allowed to change their name when they're on the sex offender register? This is a simple act of Parliament that could have been brought in to stop this ever happening. I mean, I was in charge of the Lambeth sex offender unit, Jeremy. there's so many sex offenders and not enough police officers to deal with them. So it's hard enough to keep track of them when you know their name and you know where the address is. So the idea that somebody changes their name 20 times, they're going to be disappearing and they're going to be trying to wheedle their way into families so they can do what wicked things they like to do. And they, like I say, a simple law could just stop this now.
It's interesting for me. I mean, I sit here exasperated most mornings about so much, you know, illegal immigration. Front page of The Sun, right, bringing it back to crime. Explain this to me as a retired copper who worked all his life to put bad people behind bars. That Vikram Digra who stabbed Henry Novak to death, who stood there and said to the policeman he racially abused me and hit me whilst Henry Novak was taking his last breath, and the copper went, "Oh, are you, mate?" Right, we know all about that. Not only do I find this piece of rubbish only gets 20 years, but the mother who hid the knife, who I think should get 20 years as well, if not life, she's only getting 3 years. But here's the best bit. You must love this, MN, right? They get to video call each other. What the hell's going on in the world, Michael?
We've just lost the plot, haven't we? The establishment have lost the plot. They don't believe in prison. I was reading about David Lammy saying, oh, prison doesn't work. And I think these whole releases, the short sentences, the getting rid of the 12-month sentences, they all show what the establishment, particularly the left-wing establishment, they don't like prison and they don't like sending people to prison. It goes against all their beliefs. And the result is...
Why does it go against their beliefs?
Because they believe that criminals are victims of society, that somehow we're responsible for making them thieves or murderers or whatever else. It's all our fault. It's never their fault.
So what about the millions of people who don't turn to crime? How did that happen then?
Well, we're just the mugs, I suppose, who keep paying for it. That's the scandalous thing. But you've got to sometimes try and get into their heads, Jeremy, and they will not accept that these people are, you know, it's always like, oh, broken home, they didn't have this, they didn't have that, didn't have this chat. There's 1,000 excuses offered. And all these releasing people from prison, it really just helps them out because they want to release people from prison and now they've got a really good excuse to do it.
I think it's outrageous. Talk about prisons, actually. This is interesting. Hundreds of cells empty in Britain's newest super prison, HMP Millsike, is that right, near York?
Millsike, I think you call it.
Millsike, near York. Started taking inmates in March 2025 and has space for nearly 1,500 prisoners, but is operationally restricted to just over 1,100, leaving 350 cells empty. What does that mean? What the hell does that mean?
So what they're saying there, they can't get enough prison officers. So how many people in York are on PIP? How many people in York are unemployed? How many ex-soldiers could they bring in? If it's that, we've got a national emergency at the moment, Jerry. We've got got all the police chiefs wrote to the Prime Minister saying they were concerned about public protection, victim confidence, and community safety with all these criminals being released. And so, but there's no drive. So what they should have is, I'll volunteer to do it. I'll be in charge and I'll find all these beds. I looked at that Millsike place.
Yeah.
Prison, it's got allotments. Well, I'll tell you what, on those allotments, we'll put a load of porta cabins and we can get some more prisoners in there, can't we? We could bring in the army, because when I was in the police, used to get paid overtime to look after the prisoners when the prison officers are on strike. So They could do that as well. There's all sorts of solutions, but all they'll tell you, Jeremy, is, oh, we've got to release them because of this. We've got to release them because of that. There's never, we've got to keep them in because of this. It's a mindset.
I mean, I obviously come from a different planet, because I would completely and utterly scrap early release. I would absolutely, I don't get it. You can all have a go at me. I'm giving you 10 years, Mike Neville, for the crimes you committed, but you're not coming out after 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't give a toss about bad behaviour. You're staying in until you have done the time for your crime. And if in that time you become frustrated or hacked off, well, that's your punishment. And I think we could absolutely deport foreign criminals and build bloody prisons and teach people that prison is the direct consequence of breaking the law.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know through speaking to criminals, what the only thing they fear is going to prison. And I've said this 1,000 times. The lies that we're told about tags, that people believe that they get a tag put on and they're somehow held hostage in their house. I know through my own research that less than a quarter of the tag breaches have anything done about them. And that might be as simple as don't do it again. So what people imagine is they have this tag on, it goes off, whatever noise we choose, and then the police go round there and, of course, take them back to prison. But one, there's not enough police officers to do that. Then there's not enough prison places. So the fact that they're saying these tag people are somehow safe, you know, that they've been held hostage and we're safe in the street is a lie that the establishment are practicing upon us. It cannot go on. We need a different attitude to sorting out crime, because we've had about 50, 60 years of treating criminals like victims, and look where we are. Murder used to be front page news. You've got to kill at least 6 people to get on the front page these days.
Mate, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I mean that. Thank you so much as ever. The brilliant Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector. Yeah, we're just having a bit of fun for the end of the show about the alarm system. So the alarm that went off on Friday, which pooped everybody up, really, to be honest. There's no better way to put it, is there? I just asked for suggestions. Wayne, government alarms should be 2 tickets, 5, 4. Have you got it? Play it. Go.
5.
No, we haven't got it. It's going really well, this. It was going really well. No. Oh, no, we haven't got it. Never mind. John, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning. You could have a Kevin O'Sullivan sound. Oh,
don't have a bit of fun. Simon, hello. Sorry? What? For a moment, I thought I needed to get my card out. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. Back in 3. Bye.
£1 donation problem, which kind of triggered this whole by-election. Is that an issue for you?
No, I accept that most politicians are in it at the end of the day for the 100,000 a year that they get, and so everybody's in it for money. And if it was for security, and let's face it, look at Anne Widdecombe. She could have done with 5 million, couldn't she, for security? She's dead.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back 5 to 10. So this is brilliant, Wayne. I have turned off my government alerts on my phone. I didn't even know there were government alerts to turn on and off. He says, not because I don't want to know about a future nuclear attack, but there's no way I could deal with that alarm noise and the wife screaming at the same time. I'm about to be if I'm about to be incinerated by Russia. Yeah, you'd like the last 30 seconds to be peaceful, wouldn't you? Without going, Wayne, did you take the rubbish out? The last thing I would like to hear and concentrate on would be her, for the first and last time in my life, shouting. Now, we're not being distracted by an alarm, being told I don't want to listen to her. I'm always on the phone. Anyway, welcome back. It must be a shock for you to not do your 4 days on and 4 days off this week. Are you going to be able to cope? Cheeky, but honestly, these people. Morning, Jez. So I've got a broken back. I'm on PIP. Taking money off me and giving me physio doesn't help because the NHS already give me physio, so I can't work and now I'm going to be skint. They need to rethink this rollout. Listen, there's people that will criticise without any shadow of a doubt, there will be people that criticise reforms plans today. We've asked to hear from you all day. Oh, God, this is quite depressing. Sean in Cambridge, I love you. I want to make that appointment moment known publicly. I have a similar story to you, Jez. I've got 6 kids and I only fire on 1 cylinder. one testicle, just for everybody to know. Which obviously means I put my change in the other pocket to save me walking around in circles. Very good. I'm also told by my kids that I'm going very grey, but I cover it off by saying it's not grey, it's platinum, says Sean in Cambridge. So this is platinum now, and the sun has made it platinum. It's not white. Yes, Christian, don't start. Hey, JK, Carl from the Lakes. My hair's white and I'm 57, mate. Well, you can stay in the Lakes because I don't want to talk about it. All right? At all. Lovely. Here we go. Austin, what's your alert noise to be, my friend? Austin!
Yeah, baby!
Was that Austin? Kim, good morning.
Good morning. It's Kim from near Bristol there. For the emergency alarm, you could have that part from He-Man's introduction where he says, I have the power. Because the government sure think they do.
Sorry, I had the alarm up there. I had the noise up. Listen, 3 minutes to 10. 0344 499 1000. That's just a bit of fun. By the way, just for all the people who have rung today, Robert Jenrick is making that speech at 11, giving more detail on what Reform are planning to do. There will be lots of you, and I know this, that have genuine questions. There are people texting saying, am I going to miss out? Have a listen to what they have to say. And that will all be in Julia's show. Hello, darling.
Hello, welcome
So I didn't know that
nice
was
to
on,
see
so
you.
I'm completely deaf.
There's lots to talk about that. Jenrick's
You look
speech.
well.
Thank you very much. You know, we try. We try. Jenrick, speech, I mean, he's already talked about banning 1 million foreigners from claiming benefits. Sophie was talking about yesterday, in the papers yesterday, there are other announcements which we're not going to be allowed to talk about until 11, which I think will also interest a lot of people as well. We'll be talking about that amazing, you were away on holiday, weren't you? That emergency alert on Friday night. Frightened the living daylights out of everybody. Oh,